De fatto avevi molte idee. Boh. Che cosa amore? No, è il problema dello sboy. Change. Change. Qua pare. Buon. Și dăm drumul în curând. În curând înseamnă câteva secunde. Amestecăm guma asta, hai de morți ai. Pac. Pac, pac. Pac așa. Pac așa.
Sure, you go.
There's everyone on the shoulders saying what?
You have like you've got a free love sort of attitude, haven't you? You're
Hold on a minute.
There's context.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I've asked them about this personally beforehand, and you sort of you don't play by the rules, yeah.
So yeah, I am polyamorous, which means that I date and my partners date multiple people at once, all consensually, all okay. And
Why are you looking at me as if you have to justify it to me?
I don't know.
Okay. Because he's over there like, you've done it. You fucking nailed it in his mind.
Yeah, it's just one
No
of the
wonder he
things
starts proud.
Yeah.
So
And was that, how long has that been the case? Like, were you polyamorous when you were 19 going into doing poker? Or has that sort of come up because it's sort of like, hey, I live a pretty decadent lifestyle.
pretty
I can
cool.
afford to be polyamorous. You know what I mean?
You're not pinning me down, you bastards.
Hey, Polly, come over here.
Let's go to the Emirates.
So when I was like 15, I was like, without knowing what poly meant, I was dating multiple people and they all knew about each other.
Right.
But that wasn't as ethical and it probably wasn't okay. I was a sociopathic asshole back then. I was
Right.
like, and I had a pretty bad run-in with monogamy. I know it's like a pretty badly stigma thing, but I used to cheat on people.
Right.
So I had no empathy, I had no emotions, and I feel bad about it now, but I did, whatever.
Okay.
But I found that I didn't need to be feeling guilty or ashamed of my romantic and sexual attraction towards other people in a polyamorous lifestyle. And I also really love the idea of not owning someone.
Yeah.
I think one thing I've realised as I get older is it is a bit silly how like when you're young, personally anyway, I felt like I couldn't even say to a girl I was with, see that girl over there, she's pretty fit, you know, and for her to say to me, oh, he's a good looking dude, and like I think that even having those conversations is like
Yeah. it was
God,
like,
you can't even do that a lot of the time. Like regular couples don't do that.
Sure.
And I don't think it's. I mean, obviously, I don't know how many people take it to the level you have, but I think that everyone should be able to say that we
that
are.
person attractive.
We're a bloke. Like I'm a bloke. She's a woman. It's unrealistic for me to think that she's only gonna fucking fancy me for the rest of her fucking
Yeah,
life.
for sure.
It's ridiculous. In fact, it's not even unrealistic. So even though I might not want to say it was, I can't live in denial. And as soon as I kind of realised that, I was like, I'm happy to have conversations with her lass now. And if she jokes and says such and such, even though we're watching TV and be like, oh, he's a good look, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like, and I can understand how, if you're in the situation you're in, how you would take it to that.
Yeah, and it is like that. It's like theoretically, conceptually, I love the idea of not feeling bad about anything. I love working instead
Right.
of feeling jealousy and just like running away from being like, no, she doesn't love anyone else. And just like opening up and being like, oh, okay, so you have feelings for that person as well. You can be with that person. In practice, it does get a bit like if you have insecurities, if you get jealous, and it can get a bit messy. But I really feel like working through it is better
Do
than running
you ever
away.
think you'll get to a position where you have, you move on and you have one woman and only one woman?
I think that I might get in the position where I'm dating only one person, but with the knowledge that if she or I wanted to date other people, then it would be allowed. But we might make the decision that we only want to be with each other.
Uh-huh.
Kind of thing.
Or maybe you'd have like a priority and say like, all right, like you're the main one, and I might fuck other women, but you're the one I'll come home to.
Yeah, that's the thing within poly community as well. It's called hierarchical polyamory, where you have like a primary,
What?
or you can just have one primary and then you can fuck around and you make your own rules. And it's just nice. You can just do whatever.
Plays
you
by
want,
his
you know?
own rules.
Well, no, well, I mean, what does sound interesting.
Interesting.
is obviously
Very interesting. What can I say?
My idea of polyamory comes from, you know, those documentaries about like the guys who've got 3 wives and
They're
those sort of
always
things.
so bad.
They're awful because
Have
it
you
tends
seen
to
that?
also be.
My 4 wives.
I
I'm not
watched
sure.
20
I
minutes of it like 3 days ago.
and
I-
how accurate was it?
Well, obviously he's
He's a
living
Mormon
with
guy,
them,
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I would
yeah.
assume it's a little bit different because he's got loads of kids. He's got a shit ton of kids. They're just popping out. He's literally rotating. So like Monday he's in with one wife, Tuesday another, Wednesday, Thursday, as it goes
What do you
on.
do when they're all
Sounds
having
about
kids?
right.
That must be
I
awful.
am right.
Well, obviously, if
Get
one
a
of
new
them,
wife at
if
the
one of them's
Right.
up the duff, just move on. But it
Yeah.
literally, it was so funny because like I was watching this series and he had 4 wives and they were all
We got 6 viewers
Bit
across the
overweight,
platforms.
bit older,
Very interesting.
and
Nice.
then they were all like blondie, like sort of blondie looking women. And then
Hello
out of
there,
nowhere,
guys.
once they all get in a bit
Almost
like,
to my own
fat
Twitch.
stage of their life, he just goes and goes, got a new wife, haven't I? That I tell you. And in comes this fucking 25-year-old fit brunette through the door, tight arse on her, and he's like, yeah, just moving her in, you know? And I'm sitting there going, but I don't know how he does it though, because one woman is a fucking nightmare. Like, if you've got like a missus or a girlfriend you're living with, one woman is hard to keep happy. The expectations, the attention, the questions, you know, what we do, like they want so much from you. How the fuck he keeps 4 or 5 of the bastards happy? The expectations of them women must be rock bottom.
How do you do it?
I don't know, open and communicate and stuff like that.
But it also does sound a lot like you aren't very wedded to the idea of keeping someone else happy in the sense of being like. I'm not saying you're a selfish person, but
It's a
you're not
different
sort of like.
situation to being married
Yeah.
to 4 women in a house with them all.
Well, also because that sounds very much like 4 women who want one man, whereas that's
is-
not the reason you do what you do, is it? You're not sort of like, I want to have an open network of just women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I just do it because I just don't like the idea of constricting someone else, and I want to make the people that I'm with happy, pretty much.
Right.
So if I really love someone, and I get it, this isn't for everyone, and I don't think that this is like better than monogamy or
No.
anything. But I like the idea for myself of if I'm like on the other side of the world and they happen to have romantic feelings for someone else,
So,
happy little adventure, you know, do your
so
thing.
you
man.
ever fucked a woman and then one of the other lasses found out and being like, mental.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
yeah.
Like it's one
Tell
of
us
the
what the
things that-
worst reactions. What we're looking at and what happened.
No. I'm so happy to say anything about myself, but I have a feeling that my partners might not appreciate that one.
If you're watching,
Name him.
girls, you know he's a good guy. He's looking after you, all of you.
When you heard about that idea, did you ever think, you could achieve
Yeah,
that?
do you reckon you might be poly one day?
Are you deflating or?
I'll just be like, yeah. No, genuinely. Me, just not having
Just dodging the
a
question.
main woman, I can imagine.
What about you?
For a lot of men out there, they think, fuck me, I could do that because women are hard work at times, and I can imagine why a man would just avoid that situation. Do you know what I mean?
You're
I'm-
thinking of it from quite a cynical perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hard graft,
I want to
man.
be with multiple people, so I don't have to be with one.
Yeah.
But I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying from a point of, well, we're all growing up in a generation where we're watching porn, right? And,
Yeah.
and porn, you're seeing a different woman every night. You're having a wank over a different woman every night, and your brain is getting used to having multiple women before you even get to the point of having relationships. I was used to.
That's actually
tonight,
very
I think
true.
I'm gonna watch a lass who looks like
It's
Jennifer
on
Lopez
point.
tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
It should look like Britney Spears, for example, right?
Uh,
And that was
like,
what I came from, right?
now
then
it's shut
going
down,
to have
Billy.
one woman
So,
for
Aura, yeah.
20, 30, 40 years after my brain has been trained to that is probably quite difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that's a large reason. And just like biologically as well, men are just like meant to spread their seed a lot. You know, it's like
You
we
fucking
get
right we are.
we get a lot of feelings, we get a lot of sexual attraction, and it's kind of weird that we've now created a society where men can't do that without being looked on negatively,
Or women.
or women, yeah. And
Women even more
Oh,
so.
it's always been like
Yeah.
this,
yeah, for sure.
Women
especially
get
in
a lot
Europe.
more shit.
yeah.
So, have you ever felt a bit like when you've heard one of the girls has possibly gone with another bloke? Have you ever gotten a bit fucking pissed off about it, or?
I've never got pissed off. I've got like insecure and being
Uh-huh.
like, you're not gonna leave me to be mono with him, like monogamous with him,
Mhm.
are you? And as soon as I find out that they're not, I'm usually fine. I found that I tend not to get too jealous when it comes to sexual stuff, just more with like the emotional side of it. So,
Do you find because I don't know what kind of girls these are, obviously you don't want to tell her anything.
I can
Well,
tell
they're
you
human.
about them. I just don't
I mean,
want to
you
say
said
like
you,
any
you
of
said
my
you knew,
secrets.
you knew a couple of porn stars earlier. Was that in a intimate way?
No, but
Shame.
no, yeah.
But did you find that any of them, because you've got money and obviously you're young, did they ever ask you for money or anything? Like that? Have you ever had situations where you thought, she's trying to fucking get a few quid out of me, this cunt?
I've had that with people that aren't my partners. I think that it's like very difficult to tell sometimes when you
First time I dropped a partisan in this map, holy shit.
So I try to, when I first meet people, not mention it.
This brings back many memories.
Sites and I don't have anything on mine on there. I say that my folks there, but
You
most
turn up in your pajamas, they'll never fucking
Yeah, exactly. They're never gonna ask me to pay for it all.
Yeah.
And then it'll be something once I get to know them, then it'll come out a bit more. With my current partners, most of them knew me before I had success. I think maybe half and half.
Alright.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem as long as you can get to the point where you can recognise who's being a crafty bitch, you know.
Yeah.
Who is being a crafty bitch? Is
It's
anyone
maybe
being a
Shane.
Yeah, yeah.
Shane. Some people that message me on Instagram and Facebook and stuff
I guess
like
so,
that.
right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Do you, so within the poker community, have you had a bit of like attention from the women in that area as well?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't count myself as a particularly attractive person. I don't count myself as a particularly like engaging person for women or anything. But I feel like
Well, you're 23 and you're a multi-millionaire poker player, so you're fucking different though. You've got that going for you, pal. Didn't beat yourself up. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think he's low on self-esteem. Let's
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm pretty low on self-esteem
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I'm pretty low.
In what way?
I don't know. Just if you get bullied most of your life, then it's very difficult to see yourself when you're getting told every day you're ugly. You're getting told every day you're gonna be a failure. You're about shit. Like it's pretty hard to not believe it to some extent, even if on a
Even now?
subconscious
Do you
level.
feel like that's left like lasting insecurities?
Yeah, definitely. And there are just like a couple of things that I'm working through. Like the reason I have long shitty hair is that I don't like my face, and it's genuinely if I have hair out without it being in my face, I feel like a piece
Well,
of shit.
when I seen you, I genuinely like the picture. I thought that guy does not look like a fucking superstar fucking young poker player.
Right.
I thought that you look very, no offense,
No,
not
no, I take that as a compliment.
you don't look confident at all. Like that image does not come across as someone who's like 22, like 23. Here I am. I'm fucking killing the game. Like,
Yeah.
because if I had been your age and had that success, I wouldn't have acted that way. So, is there a point where you feel like you're going to change?
I think that money's probably not going to change me. You see it happening a lot in poker, that you'll get a bunch of people who are just like nerdy losers, basically, in school. That would have had no validation from women, no validation from peers, no validation from public, and then they become a ludicrously successful poker player, and suddenly they're the shit, you know? And their whole identity becomes poker, and everything about them becomes how much money they've made, because that's what gives them that validation. So I think that happens quite a lot with a lot of people, but when I came into poker, I just kind of like heard about it, and I was like, I don't want that to happen to me, you know?
Do you ever feel like rubbing it in the faces of those bullies who?
So like, there's always going to be a small part of you that wants to, you know, like whoever you are. I've had messages from like probably over a dozen people that used to bully me on some level, saying congratulations, it's pretty sick what you're doing. And I think from their point of view, they don't really remember how bad it was.
I'm
but-
sure they don't.
Yeah.
When you're dishing out the pain and it's just a joke and
Yeah,
it's a laugh,
exactly, for sure.
you don't realise the psychological thing of you're getting up to go to school in the morning thinking I really don't want to fucking go there.
Yeah, I just skip school so much of the
Yeah.
time, and I kind of like, I'm probably a lot dumber now than I would have been, because I stayed at home watching, like, playing computer games.
The drugs can't be helping. So.
It's also
The
often
jokes were helping.
it's a cumulative effect, though, isn't it? It's like, it's not just if it's, you know, like someone could make a small comment, but then someone else chips in with another comment, and it's sort of
Yeah,
it's the
for
snowball
sure.
effect.
I remember I had this moment when I was at a festival last year or something, and someone came up to me and was like, "Oh yeah, Charlie, congratulations on the poker thing. And do you remember in middle school, just like, do you remember this? Like the whole school was bullying you." And I was like, "Yeah, I remember."
You're
Thanks,
one
man.
of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously.
Sheesh.
Were you tripping balls then, or was that a real person?
No, that was a real person.
Cheers for bringing
I
that
may
up.
have-
Feel-
I
feel
may
bad
have
for
been
those guys,
tripping
but,
balls
I mean,
as
they
well,
got-
but I remember it.
Yeah.
It happened. He
Put
was
the
there.
win in
Yeah,
nice, so-
you can't tell me otherwise. Yeah. So I
Do you
think-
ever feel like, did you ever think, do I bring this on myself that I'm getting bullied? Like,
Yeah.
almost like you were an easy target in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I have or had definitely, and still probably do, a lot of the qualities that make someone.
I need
feel
to
like
see
was
how much I
highly
get
autistic.
per each
Had diagnosed with
stone.
Asperger's. I'd like to say it doesn't come across quite as much now, but still, like, at times.
I mean,
I had that question banked. Do you know what I mean?
It's like the next one.
Yeah.
Give me a time.
no, but you obviously, having met people with autism myself, I don't think you're anywhere near as bad as some people I've met.
Yeah,
like, nowhere
and the thing is, I used to be, and
Oh.
I think the defense mechanism I had when I was a kid turned into more of a sociopathic, and the link between autism and sociopathy is actually kind of huge, because the lack of empathy and the lack of emotions. And,
Right, yeah.
So I think I kind of tended towards that, which gave me a bit more confidence and a bit more.
Well, as a communicator, I would imagine you've come on amazingly.
Yeah, for sure. I used to not be able to make eye contact. Used to not be able to understand anyone's emotions. Used to not be able to just like say a sentence without having some kind of weird intonation that everyone would be like, "What are you saying?" So yeah,
Let's use this.
it was
How
definitely.
have you done that? Like, how have you grown like through that?
I think just a lot, and I think this happened. This is why I've been pretty successful in poker as well. It's just a lot of self-criticism and analysis.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you do it as well for YouTubing as well. Just like scroll through.
It's
and
one of
be
my
like,
worst qualities is criticising myself and
I
other
think it's
people.
probably one of your best.
It makes
Oh,
you very honest
look at
with
this.
yourself, but it also means that you very rarely compliment yourself.
Easy
as well.
20
Like,
million.
there's no-
Oh,
That's
then I
it.
don't think you're so good.
No, I joke on, but do you know what I mean? Like, within my mind,
Yeah.
I don't ever say, "Oh, you're fucking great, mate." Like,
Yeah.
I never think that.
Never
do you
give
know?
yourself a pat on the
I
back.
always think 400,000, right now 500.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I never stop and smell the roses.
That's a funny one because you can obviously enjoy the moment, but you can also want something else. Do you know what I mean? Do you think that's that you don't feel like you have that balance?
I don't think until I hit 1 million subscribers that I'll ever stop and say.
Why can't you be satisfied with what you have right now?
I can really relate to that.
It's a fear that comfort and that happiness will breed laziness and
Right.
get me to be complacent. So until I hit 1 million subscribers, I'm never going to pat myself on the back, basically.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah,
But
so-
then maybe I'll hit that because
And
I'm sure
then
that
you'll let
I'm sure you've hit milestones
Yeah, for sure.
where you thought
million.
you would relax and chill out and you haven't.
Do you remember your first Do you remember when you realised?
It's quite funny because this is like 2
Yeah,
years ago. Now he's
I think I'd
1.86
actually
million.
been
Yeah,
there for like a week or something before then.
And you just
it'd
sort
be
of
quite
opened the
nice to
fridge and
see
were like,
his opinion.
Look at all this money.
Oh, I found another 100.
Dang.
I just like.
I'll say today, but maybe
when,
in 1 or 2
in
months.
the poker world, your money's kind of like in a lot of different places. So you have a bunch online, you have a bunch in this bank, in that currency, in cash, and it's pretty hard to just like keep track of it all the time. And occasionally, I'll just do a little count in my head. And I remember the first time I was like, "Oh, is that over?" Yes.
Yeah.
don't mention it to anyone. But
Yeah. And then your dad walks in and is like, "Don't be getting complacent now. There's another 5 million to make."
Don't be enjoying that.
Yeah,
You could have
exactly.
2 million.
I
So
didn't
do you have
even
someone who
check
keeps
how
track of
much
that for
XP
you?
I
Is
got
that
on
all
that?
your personal
Fuck.
responsibility? You don't have like a
If we get
bank
double
or accountant or someone.
And it probably should
the
be.
experience, maybe I should just farm the
I've been
fucking
scammed by
120s.
I'm a very
Really?
scammable.
Maybe if I get like
In what way? Like
20%
This polyamorous thing.
less, considering the time you get
I
like
will just like
20% less
take
than
someone's
just
word for it,
just
that they
throwing
pay
2
me back
level
for money
100s.
they don't owe me money,
Mm.
because I mean I don't do it as much anymore, but at the beginning
Depends,
when I was
depends.
like I would never fuck someone over. It just seems like the dumbest thing to do. Your
Yeah.
name is just dragged through the mud for the rest of your life. What are you gonna do? So I just assumed everyone else wasn't going to. You know?
That's really interesting.
And no, I just got fucked.
Which is ironic because being a poker player requires you to be quite able to read people.
Okay, now is the time.
Yeah.
4480, just don't
You
forget
also
But
can
in
that.
hide your
personal-
own. Yeah.
But when you're in a personal life and you switched off from that mode, you can be quite gullible at times.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like,
Is it like a switch goes on when you play the game then?
yeah, like I'm sure it happens to you when you're YouTubing as well.
No, he's pretty much the same.
No,
now.
just the same, just the same dude. To be fair,
Fuck's
you
sake.
have not actually changed since the microphone's turned on. So that's like
See?
we were getting in some pretty good conversations before this.
I'm a
started,
real
and it's
motherfucker.
like,
This is the problem is we do all sit around and we have this conversation beforehand and then
Yeah, we had a sick
all-
conversation. And we just had to be like, oh, wait.
Don't worry, we'll get
Switch
into
the
that again
cameras
later.
on.
Yeah. Okay, start rolling now. But-
this is gold.
Yeah, but do you think at all that your autism helps you read other people, or do you think it's like do you consider it to be like some sort of poker superpower? Not to put too much of on it.
I would say that the sociopathic side of me, which is definitely still there, but I'm trying to like slowly layer over, has been probably the best thing that could have happened to my poker career. And the reason for that is, let's say you get in tournaments, especially when you get deep in a tournament, you're playing for sums of money that you're not used to playing for.
Right.
So you could buy in for a tournament for, let's take the extreme example, the WSOP main is $10,000 every year. Up the first prize is somewhere between $7 and $10 million. And if you're the kind of person who gets there and you're playing, each pot is probably going to be worth like 4 times the amount of money you have in your life, and you're the kind of person that's going to brick it, shit yourself, not handle that very well, you're not going to do well in the long run, because that's where the big money is when the difficult situation's made. And I felt that side of me, mixed with probably a bit of mindset about not caring about money, was just like completely turned me off to it. And the upside of that is that I think I handle my shit. The downside is that I don't really enjoy it when I win.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a give and take. But
Yeah.
It's a gift and a curse, isn't it?
Alright, let's analyze some numbers.
Autism
Random
is a
numbers.
responsibility.
So basically,
That's
it's
it.
just
That is a quote. Enjoy that. out there.
No, I mean,
153.
obviously I'm not mocking it. For some people, it's actually a very serious. Some people, not everyone's sort of
You can
lucky
laugh
enough to
about
get
it
to
in
any
this situation,
position.
yes.
And I think everyone. Also, I think one of the most
Wait,
frustrating
I'm confused.
things that I often hear is people go, "Well, I have a friend with autism."
Yeah,
as soon as they
yeah,
meet
yeah.
someone who has a friend who has
Point
autism,
20,
it's sort of like,
wait.
so I know all about whatever you're going through because I once had a friend who wouldn't talk to me once. You know what I mean?
It reminds me.
Wait,
of the way
it's
you
actually-
talk about handling pressure in
Let's
general.
see it again. 49,
in all walks
45,
of life.
69.
People who are calm and cool under
That
pressure
should be
are
like
usually right at the top
47
of every field, and the ones who bottle it or panic or brick it
or
or have
40,
anxiety, they
45,
crumble whenever the going gets
89.
tough. Like when we're talking about the MMA fight, like people have said lately, Conor McGregor, who's like the main guy obviously in the UFC, he has the most press to do, the biggest hype. His fights are bigger than anyway. First fight in New York, he's fighting for the first time to be a 2-weight world champion. Goes in as if it's nothing. He's so single-minded, and obviously what you're describing.
It's
is
basically the
similar
same. It's
state
like
of mind of
24
just
per that,
you're cold,
and I should
and-
just farm
but
the
unfortunately, when
level
you do win,
120s. To be
it-
honest,
it's
I
almost
shouldn't
like
skip any
fighters
stone.
who
In
have
fact,
that air of, when they
in
win,
order to maximize
they
it.
very rarely jump on the cage and go crazy straight away.
Just have a
They'll
fucking
celebrate
thief
after
glove
this,
by
but, like,
by the
we're very
side to
rarely
get
just,
maps drop
are
as
you always
well.
gonna do that?
It's still
exactly.
part of the. But I think he's
He's in
still.
that
Move
zone.
it
Yeah,
over
well, he's
here.
also he realizes that's also part of the fight. Do
Yeah.
you know, whereas other people, that maybe he's able to compartmentalize. Do you think you're quite?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think compartmentalizing when I'm playing poker and when I'm not playing poker, and that's like genuinely one of the biggest things I found for the top poker players is that the longer they play, the higher stakes, the less emotional they become as a person, because that compartmentalization starts to like seep into their actual life as well.
Yeah.
And it's super tricky to get past, to be honest.
Yeah, but then it also sounds like you have the ability to not compartmentalize by taking LSD, or sort of going the
Yeah.
complete opposite way, because it sounds a lot like what you're talking about is you mastered a system of poker, or sort of mastered to a degree. You know, obviously you can't master something, it's a chance, but you've mastered that to a level, but you also need some sort of release. So do you have that aspect of your life?
Release in what sense?
Just sort of something you do enjoy?
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
like
I've
if
got
I was you and I had the money you had,
You'd be dead. No joke. Like,
No,
yeah,
he's the
you'd
best.
be in a hospital at some point.
I would literally be living the Elvis Presley sort of like. If I'm in Las Vegas,
Even worse.
I'd be taking everything, doing everything, and shagging every girl that like come my way. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you ever have times where you just blow a fucking shitload of money and go crazy, or do you think that because you're so chilled out when it comes to money, you don't have that urge?
I don't anymore. I definitely. It's not that I get the urge to blow money. It's that if something comes to my head and I want to do it, then
A good time.
a good time.
But do you feel like you've achieved it in that sense?
Achieve the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, because obviously you got to the point where you kind of have enough money that so for someone who's on a normal salary, they'll sort of be like, I have to build this money up, and then I
first
get that, and
bonuses.
then they get that sense of
Or
achievement.
3 bonuses rather.
Do you still get that sense of achievement?
Oh no, not at all. I don't think that I deserve anything that I have.
It's almost as if the world has no price tag anymore. Like, there's no, like, if a normal person wanted to book a holiday, they'd look through, I don't know, like an internet thing or whatever. He doesn't need to look at the price tags anymore. They're not there really.
Yeah, that's definitely. And I've had to catch myself out a few times.
Like everything is free in your mind.
Yeah, and
Or
I don't
close sense.
want to have that like disrespect for money. And
Yeah.
I think that now I'm like taking the tube everywhere. I'm just like walking.
But you kind
everywhere
of have to disrespect money in order to remain good at what you do. That's
in
part of
poker.
your job, isn't it?
I think that's part of the compartmentalization. Is that it's so hard not to get affected by how you think about poker and how little respect you have for money in poker. Because if you care about money in poker, just like it's game over from there. If you're the kind of person that's gonna be averse to taking risks, that doesn't want to make that big bluff, that's gonna be scared of losing all their money, you're just not gonna be successful. But then in the real world, if you have that disrespect for money, you're gonna be a douche. I don't want to be the kind of person that turns up to a bar and doesn't know how much money they're spending on a drink when everyone else does, you know? Because I know how much money, I know how much good money can do in the world. You know? You just hear some stats of like the average Kenyan family spends like 60 cents a day.
Wait.
something like that, and you're just like,
There we go.
so I just spent like £30 on smoothies.
Yeah.
What have I done?
Wow.
Yeah.
And ironically, that's the first thing you said today, where I think, God, I want that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I wish I could spend £30 on smoothies.
It's the dream.
Yeah.
With me, it was everything else.
It was everything else he said. Whereas as soon as I heard smoothies, I was just like, wow. So you've obviously travelled quite a lot as well with poker.
Yep.
Or is it always sort of there are 5 main places that everyone just goes to play poker?
At first there was. I did this one series, the European Poker Tour, which isn't around anymore, and I thought that was just it. I thought I was just going to travel the EPT, and that'd be it. And the places were pretty sick. It was like Barcelona, Prague, Bahamas, Malta, some other places.
Nice. European.
Yeah,
Right.
European Poker Tour. But now, after I have branched out a bit and realised there's a lot more poker, it's pretty much it can take you anywhere as long as there's not any weird gambling regulations there. It can pretty much go anywhere.
So how do you get to that level where you can sort of go on a tour? Like, do you have to buy into a tour, or do they come to you and say,
No, they'll just like it's kind of like if they build it, they'll come kind of thing.
Right.
So one company will be like, yo, we're having like this one in Nottingham is next, and they'll be like, okay, we're gonna have a
All the
5K,
exotic
a 10K,
places.
and yeah, exactly. They've really filled it in nicely there.
the Bahamas,
The cherry on
Malta,
top.
Nottingham?
But it's pretty sick there. The poker cup's pretty sick. But then when you go on those kind of tours, they'll have like a 5k, a 10k, a 25k, and you can decide which one of those you want to play. And if you just want to play like the main event, then that's fine. If you want to play the higher orders, that's fine. And there'll even be like mini ones, like $100 or $500 or whatever, for people who are at different stages in their poker career.
So then, how do you get up to, and what status are you at the moment? Are you in that high roller group, or?
Yeah, so like now I think that I could play pretty much anything I wanted. If I didn't want to put up all the money myself, which is definitely something that happens a lot in the poker world, I would...
People like fund other people to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So to decrease variance, meaning that... So there's a lot of variance in poker, meaning that you could, even if you play the best poker you've ever played in your life, you can still...
What the fuck was that shit? Holy fuck.
That chance of happening, you can kind of like spread your seed to multiple places.
I explode that.
So, for example, person can say, alright, me and another person are going to invest.
Alright.
You.
So
We'll go
put that
3
much
ways
pressure
on
on the
split.
chair.
If we win
Or not
a
the
single,
chair,
we'll
the
split 3
fucking-
ways back.
Yeah, exactly. So
Damn,
you
okay.
might be like, okay, I'm going to play this 100k tournament. I'm going to sell 2% to that guy, 5% to that guy. That guy wants 30%, and then afterwards, the guy that got 30% will get 30% of the winnings, etc. So yeah, I think that there was a tournament coming up in Vegas in May, which they did a fucking raffle for, and I didn't get in the raffle. And it was like the biggest sweat that I had, the biggest gambling sweat that I had, because I had like a 75% chance of getting in, but I didn't get in. And the buy-in was 300k, and it was just going to be the best tournament that's ever happened. I'm kind of tilted means like an amazing bunch of
Yeah.
that I didn't get in that.
That's annoying.
But I wouldn't be able to put up 300k for myself. I mean, I would, but that'd be dumb because that's just like,
It's a massive risk.
yeah, exactly. So I'd put up an X% of that myself and then sell the rest to other people.
Okay.
How do you go about selling that? Do you have contacts, or is there a way
Yeah,
to offer it out?
At first, it's kind of tricky because if no one knows that you're good, then you can't really sell to other people. Then once you get a name for yourself, I can just make a Facebook status now and I'll get like 20 people being like, because I've had like I love making other people money, and I've had such a good run of like, I've got lucky at the times when other people have had pieces of the pie. So that has also, word has got around and people have told their friends and invest in that guy. And
So you know when things don't go well for poker players in general,
yeah,
have you ever seen any like mad reactions when people have lost big money?
people flip that shit. Like,
Really?
quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that the higher stakes you get, the less it happens, which is kind of like counterintuitive, but it makes sense in the sense that you're just like desensitized by that point.
Because you, by that point, you're prepared to lose that level of money.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting actually. Like, that is one thing I notice about poker players, is that something bad can happen in their life, like they'll lose money. Like, let's say their car breaks down, they have to buy a new car. Sure, that happens. A lot of people, they would be pissed off for a week if that happens.
Yeah.
Like, this fucking car, got a new car. Poker players, because they're so used to that non-stop winning money, losing money, winning money, losing money, seeing their car break down, it's just like, oh, I just lost 10k. That happens.
Easy come,
And-
easy go.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the good qualities you get out of being a poker player, is just that desensitization that comes with the lack of emotional attachment to money as well. And it means that it's a lot harder to get pissed off during the day, you know, because a lot of the stuff that does piss people off is
Money.
stuff like money. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. So when you get up to the high roller place, what's that like to be part of that group? Is it like the sort of thing where you sort of text 5 people and be like, let's all the high rollers go to Nando's? Or is it like,
I mean, you make friends, you start playing the same faces pretty much all the time, especially in like the highest of the high rollers. There's probably like 50 people who are playing them consistently and regularly. And to be honest, I fucking love it. Like, the kinds of different people you get are just insane. When you get to that level, you get people who are passionate, who are eccentric, who like have esoteric hobbies, and
Hopefully
like,
some
oh,
stuff
this
from the
person
shop
also, like,
sells.
the world champion climber. And,
Right.
This shop doesn't sell anything today. I'm gonna be kind of pissed because I'm poor as a brick.
There was like an MMA fight that happened with
I'm
the
fucking-
It was really funny. So there was this one guy that was
Bottom,
which belt he was, I think.
on the bottom of the barrel,
Jiu-jitsu.
quite literally.
Um,
4-1.
yeah, it's
Holy shit.
he
Nah,
was challenged
it's a
to-
cap.
Challenged a fight to a guy. Gave the other guy odds, so if they bet 100k, they would get 130k back.
Instantly betting on it. I love it.
right.
And then
Let's not be
The guy, I
lazy.
think the guy had,
Put this on.
I think it was like
There we go.
£20 on him,
Mhm.
which is like quite a lot in Halo. I
2
think.
minutes into the pipeline.
And then they just like went at it. They had 6 months to prepare, and it was just like the most hilarious thing because all these poke players like suddenly turned into MMA geniuses. Like, oh, trust me, it's the guy with all the experience, the yellow belt, and he just got absolutely
Another one. It
by
should.
the end of it.
No way.
Totally crushed.
He didn't take any fucking chances there. Did his homework.
What would you do if someone challenged you to a fight? Would you take them up on that? Like, do some training?
I would only do it if it was an actual
What?
worthy challenge, though. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah, yeah, you
doesn't matter.
obviously,
I'm
if
over
someone
180,
stood
right?
up-
How much
I'm not-
fighting have you done?
I'm not a fucking bully, alright? What's that?
How much fighting have you done?
I'm not a professional fighter at all, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, have you got in?
Oh, I've had
Overalls?
plenty of fights, but
Yeah,
I'm not a professional
Okay,
fighter.
okay.
But what usually
To
happens
be
is that I got to
in
an age where,
Form
and another thing is when you've
120s.
had, like, a few
Very
scraps and
interesting.
that,
What can I
people tend to
say?
realise, all right, well, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So then the name, but then sometimes it can work the other way where you get a name for yourself and people want to sort of test themselves against you. But yeah.
How old were you when you got big?
Decent.
Like,
What do you mean, like when I?
were you like a big kid?
Yeah, so like
No, I forgot about
14,
the.
I remember I was
fuck.
playing basketball and there was a video being taken, and I remember
There you go.
watching it back after the class, and I was like, who
So-
the fuck's that? And then I realised it was me. And I screamed. I'm fucking.
Who's that guy? Did
I-
he eat everyone else?
No, I just realised that my I'd never lifted a weight. I'd never ever picked the weight up, but everyone else was just when they turned to the side, so much more narrow, and my chest and back was just thicker than everyone else. So like when I picked up a weight, I was just my body just absorbed weight training.
Yeah, so it's just like
It was like yeah, just like
natural.
making a fucking horse plow the fucking fields or whatever, you know, like it's just like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel like your size has got you in more or fewer fights?
Fewer, without a doubt. I think that like you, if take you for example, and this no offense, mate, obviously, but like
None taken, actually.
if you were the natural target, I was the natural person to avoid. I was
Yeah,
at
for
the
sure.
opposite end of the food chain, but at the same time, it's like it didn't make us think. I don't know. I think that even if I'd been the kid who was maybe the weedy kid or whatever, that I think I'd probably mentally have been the same person, because I never really let it go to my head.
That must have been a huge thing in school, actually. Like, you just like don't have any of the negative side of it because people don't do it.
No, because you've got the other negative side of it. So you've got on one side you've got you who maybe can't communicate that well, and you're saying that like physically you weren't imposing.
I'm curious.
I was physically imposing, but then you.
I
get
want to
the
make
other
it
shit
level 92 or
He's a big
96,
fat
and then
guy
I
in,
think
like,
it
in my
has
head, do you know what I mean?
maybe
Like,
max
you
values.
know, yeah, he's big and strong, but
Yeah,
because
he's
he's
a-
big and strong, he must be fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Razador as well.
That is a stigma I've had my whole life.
David and
We'll
Goliath.
keep this on the
idea.
From being
Ninja.
10 years old, people
We're
used to
gonna
think I
make
was
one.
dumb just because of the size of us. Because there's no way I could be big and strong and intelligent. Like, that's not going to happen. And they were right.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the chances?
They would have known. They were spot on the whole time.
David and Goliath is an interesting story actually, because they were saying like it could actually be about a real story.
Mhm.
So it could actually be that they said that they found skeletons of huge people from that time, and those people would obviously be taken into the army at that time because it was like, well,
Yeah.
this guy's huge, let's take him. But also that those people were obviously ill, or what they think was that Goliath had a growth on one of his glands, which caused him to just not stop growing.
Mm.
And what that did was it caused everything in his body to grow. So it would also cause other problems for him. So it would cause like stuff behind his eyes to grow, so he would have like double vision and things like this. And so
Forgot about
when
the
they
fucking
sent
I
him
was
out,
all tabbed.
obviously they
Freak.
set him out as some sort of a big intimidating,
Yeah.
you know. And actually, the person with the better odds the whole time was David, because he was just trained.
David would have been the favourite.
And he would have been
real-
told
yeah.
like the best place to hit him is exactly there, because those people were very because of the way they
There
grew,
is a
were very
point though
weak.
where being big becomes counterproductive. So like
You mean in a fight?
in life, like I
Oh,
think
yeah, for sure.
I think once you go past, for example, if you put me in a fight against someone now and said you can fight someone who's 5'11" or fight someone who's 6'7",
Yeah,
I
5'11".
I would take the 6'7" guy any day of the week over the 5'11" guy.
Because skinny small guys are scrappy, aren't they?
No, but what I'm not even saying skinny.
Had to learn to be.
Yeah.
I'm saying 5'11" is you can still have a certain amount of strength and a certain mobility, I would decimate a 6'7" guy fucking quick
because he can't put muscle on.
There's no way he's going to be able to be mobile in that size. Like, I think once you get to a point, maybe 6'5", you can be certain kind of mobile. But like once you get, like, I've seen like Stefan Struve, who's an MMA fighter, he's like 6'7". Once he gets someone who's mobile who can keep coming at him,
Who
he
came
can't
here
keep him
now?
outside, he is so fucked.
Why do you think that is though? Like, do you ever think about that? Because I was
Dude,
thinking about this the other day
literally
with
all the
like
channels are
NBA
empty
guys.
and this guy is
You know,
coming
the
on.
big guys, it's often thought,
Alright
oh, they
then.
can't shoot threes or whatever. I think, why doesn't your whole body just grow proportionally? Why do you?
Yeah,
like,
genetics. What the fuck?
No, like what? Why? If someone's taller, are they lankier? Like, why isn't it all proportional?
It doesn't always work that way. Like,
no, not always, but very often you will sort of
with
see,
me,
like, you know.
when I get a photograph taken of me on my own, people say I look about 5'10" because I am
They assume-
broad and
yeah, yeah.
tall.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't. I don't look as tall as I am until people meet us in person.
But with smaller people around, so if kids.
This
are
kid
big,
is
you look like-
firing here at 120, or is he doing the fucking mission?
Or both.
Or
It's
just
like
There's
kind
no
of-
characters near him.
Obviously
This
the
is
scariest sort of
not
thing
really,
ever.
you know.
Yeah.
No, it is funny
Hey.
how life gives and takes away, isn't it?
Interesting,
But,
very interesting. What can I
but I
say?
had days at school where I felt a bit shit.
No, it's leveling up.
So even
Because you were.
But
I just remember thinking, well, it would be nice
he wants to be a
bit
prick.
have a natural six pack and not have spots, and
Yeah,
so there's that. Everyone has, and
Everyone
even the
says so.
people who you think are the beautiful people at school get up in the morning and feel embarrassed and look like shit, and
They end up having-
everyone's insecure.
Yeah,
Everyone.
Yeah, for sure. They end up having more insecurities, I think, because they have so much attention on the way that they look that it, like, they notice it when.
And you have
they
to live
a
up to
bad day
something.
with
Like if you're the pretty girl in school and then you get a spot, it's a way bigger deal
Yeah,
than if you've
yeah,
always
yeah,
had
definitely.
spots. I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Other people probably make a bigger deal with it. Although it's also about, I guess, again, it's about that perspective. You know, if you're going to be that negative, like you could be really good looking and be really negative, and you probably have a terrible life. But you could be really ugly and be really positive, like, you know, like me, and have a great life. You know, but you know that tends to be true. And also, it also tends to be that if someone sails through school because they are good looking, or you know, they sail through school because they are one thing in particular, they tend not to approach their problems, or
Yeah.
they tend not to have realized those problems
They
because
tend
it's like.
to not have any reason as well to grow as a person because they get all the validation they need without growing a personality. And I'm sure that there are exceptions, but
Yeah.
I'd say the tendency
Oh.
is that the shallower people's perceptions of you, the more they want you for your looks, is the less you need to try.
I don't know about you two, but I've met lads from school like you like we leave school at like 16, and I've met lads who 10 years on are the exact same people,
person,
and I
yeah.
look at them and I go, fuck me.
What were you doing? Yeah.
Same fucking. Come on, man. We've had time. What you been doing with it?
Yeah.
Same shit every week, mate. That's what.
But then I got to admit, I kind of like when I was younger, I really found it hard to understand why someone would want to stay in my hometown, why someone would want to just build a life.
Yeah.
But now I also see the big benefits of that. Like I have some really good friends who, you know, bought a house and those sort of things.
No,
And you
I
think-
don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah, but it's almost amazing how people can remain the same. Like you have to almost try to shelter
I'd have to
yourself
try
from
so
life.
hard.
You almost have to shove your head up your own arse for 10 years.
Ignore other people. You have to be
yeah.
ignorant.
Yeah, and ironically, the guys I know who haven't grown since school are the most ignorant cunts you could ever meet in your life. Do you know? And that's why I'm good friends with them.
We didn't go to school together. So
No,
Yeah,
seriously,
okay.
it sort of frustrates us because I'm like, you're just missing out.
Do you think you, like, as you've gotten further away from school, you become more confident? Because you're 23 now. I remember still feeling like a sense of attachment to.
I think that if I were to graph out my confidence levels, it would have, like when I was younger and getting bullied, like they were down here, and then school would have been up here, and now probably getting back down again.
Back down, yeah,
because
yeah.
I've got some level of humility and realizing that I'm just a
Just a
normal
multi-millionaire
human.
poker player. Yeah.
But there were moments in school where I had like ludicrously high confidence and self-worth.
Really?
But
Why?
I don't know. I just
You were
like,
clever as well.
I mean, I saw myself as the smartest. I saw myself
Right.
as like the best with my words, and obviously not anymore. and
Do you think that autism is part of that? Because I've seen some people who have like a detachment from reality
Yeah.
with that.
yeah, I think a mixture of the autistic side and the sociopathic side. Like I definitely had, I think one of the lists of like the sociopathic things is like delusions of self-grandeur, and it just came from just like a defense mechanism of wanting to give myself that validation. I think that I never got from other people.
Yeah.
And just like seeing myself as the best. I remember I had times where it's like if someone else even implied that someone was smarter than me, I just like my insides were just I'm like fuck that. I'm gonna prove it wrong. And
Would you get angry, or would you laugh? Like how would you respond to that?
I think more of a laugh, but subtly try and prove it. Like I've been a lot more manipulative back then. Pretty bad. I was a pretty bad human being at times. But, you know.
I think you're quite young, though. You sound like quite
we've all-
quite
Yeah,
naive.
I was
in
like
that.
15 or something.
Yeah,
like
we've
that.
all been an
Whatever,
arsehole
whatever.
at that age.
Not me.
Not the
Perfect.
angel.
Yep. Yeah, no, I probably was a real asshole at that time as well.
How do you think you've changed in the last like say like 4 years?
I was just saying on the last podcast, I just learned a lot. Like more so just, I mean, one thing that you've done, which I admire, is where other people would think, don't do this, it's a silly move. Don't do that, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And you've taken chances, you've gambled actually with life as well as the actual job. Just learning to follow what I want to do, right or wrong, and yeah, I think that's the best way. What about you, Loz?
I think I've learned a lot.
You've changed in the last few months.
In what way?
I've just noticed the difference in you. Like, I think you've chilled out a bit.
Do you think?
What was he like before?
No, I just
Highly strung.
no, I just think I've watched you grow a lot since meeting you. Like, I think you just take life a little bit less seriously. Like, you don't get wound up as much as you used to.
Yeah, I think that sort of comes in waves, though, doesn't it? Like, yeah, like I think everyone sort of grows in their 20s, don't they?
Yeah.
There's no way. If you don't, there is probably something wrong.
Yeah, I
Do
never
you
want to
know what I
stop
mean?
growing.
Shivali?
And I don't think you. Yeah.
Oh, I
There's
was
different
fucking
levels
no
of
way.
different kinds of growth. And I think
Yeah,
what I've
It's
sort
like
of observed of other
something
people
is
is you don't go through those
missing.
stages.
Something is not quite
Very
right
often
with
people
damage.
always keep going
Then
back
I
to that
realized,
stage where they
wait.
complete. It is a little bit like a computer game in that sense that
Yeah.
you know, if you don't complete a level,
16.4.5. There we
and
go.
it's and I know some people are stuck in certain level. Like there are some
Me.
guys who are like 40
One day.
and they still think that's cool.
It's gonna be +9,
I'm gonna go.
but not today.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with
I
it.
don't think I'm gonna. I mean, I'm
But
gonna
at some
try
point
to
you
make
sort of
this one
think-
+9.
That's a little bit like
I
there
think
is something
today.
unusual if you've been doing that same thing for the past 20 years. And you're
Hopefully,
still
shit
getting a
sells
validation
from
out
the
of it.
shop so I can actually
Yes,
buy
and
like
then
fragments
you
for
just
Sometimes
to
I
look
wonder
at.
if
Like
my
33
mind's
stacks
playing
of fragments.
as well, because sometimes
fucking
I look
inventory
back and
maybe.
I think,
I don't know.
fucking hell, I thought I knew it all then, but I really knew fuck all.
I
But
should
that's
have.
the
Okay,
thinking
and now you're
that.
thinking now,
Yeah.
so
But
maybe I do know
But,
stuff.
but then a few more years they'll go by and then I'll say it again.
Good
and I'll
old
be like,
one,
yeah,
whatever,
even then
man.
I knew fuck all.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
But then I wonder, well then, what do I know now? Is that a lot, or is that how will I feel about this in a few
That
years?
was like my biggest problem a few years ago. Was
Will
that
I look at this as the definitive, or will I think that the next 3 years are more definitive?
I remember thinking that. I remember going to my uncle's, and he's like this incredibly kind of spiritual guy. He's very intelligent, and I remember asking him like, how do we know? How do I know when it's real? Do you know what I mean? Like, at what point am I going to know that my knowledge is right? You know?
Never.
And he was like,
Never
you're never going to know.
to
and when you're like, you know, when you're first going to university or you're first sort of fresh out of school, you're a bit like, oh well, I would really want to know. Like, you know, I really, it would be
But
really
everyone's-
handy if I knew.
It's like we're all searching for that like enlightenment of some sort, and I think no matter how old you get, if you're a questioner of like, why are we here, what we're doing, is this the right thing, am I doing the right path, and you literally will question that until the point where you go, well, when I die, and like, and almost like when you die, and it either just switches off completely and it goes black, and that's like,
I hope so.
and there's the episode finished, the film ends, or something else happens. But anyone seeking that like validation of, oh, was I right with this? You literally will drive ourselves crazy.
Yeah, you're just never going to be right about it. It's just like one of the things where we're human. We see such a small percentage of the universe. Like, there are a bunch of other dimensions that we can't even comprehend. There are just like things that we don't know exist out there. We can't see most of the things that we even do exist in this dimension. And somehow we're trying to give ourselves all the answers to the universe. You know?
Or fooling ourselves into thinking we can achieve all those answers, and
exactly.
sort of like it's almost the sense of like God without, you know, like an atheist idea of God, like sort of like, oh, we can find all the answers,
Yeah,
but it's actually like, well, actually no, you can't. But
Well, I think
it's very reassuring that you might be able to.
The only thing you can hope for is that the 20-year-old you could teach the 10-year-old you.
It's not that you
a lot, the
can
40-year-old
do it,
you
you
could teach the
so
20-year-old you a lot, and
all,
so on and so on.
it's
So
impossible, you
if
wanna
could say
find
that
most
for 10
things.
years of life every time
That's
and say,
what drives
somebody
humanity
has to really
further
sit
and
down with
further.
the-
It's just
the 20-year-old
seeking
me
for
or
more
whatever,
knowledge, for
and
more
teach them a lot, then
information.
you're doing something right. But if you can't say that, and there's so many
It's
people
not.
who think they can but they can't,
There's
they're
literally
not
everything there
doing
is.
at all.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like you. So
There's
it's
how
very
much
easy to,
you can discover about the
obviously,
place you
when
live
you
on,
say
the planet you live
there's a
on,
lot
I
of
meant to
people
say.
that can't, do you think of yourself in that category? Because we were having this conversation last week when we talk about certain YouTubers, or we talk about certain public figures or someone. Sometimes afterwards we've had messages from those exact YouTubers who didn't know we were talking about them, and so you'll be like,
Not me.
Yeah, right.
I haven't had any messages. I'm not in this.
no, but you know what I mean. Like, you
Yeah.
know, there'll be people out there you'll be like, yeah, these fucking YouTubers, these idiots, and then they'll be like, yeah, idiots, and you're like, no. But the point
Wait.
is, so like,
Wait.
but it's about having
Don't
that.
talk about my mates like that.
But it's about having that awareness, though, isn't it? Like that awareness to be like, well, actually, I'm probably one of those people. And actually, what you often find is the people, the stuff that you judge very harshly is often the stuff that you like the least about yourself.
I've heard that a lot. I think that can be true, but I also think that could also not be true. I think that also it could be the case that you used to be like that, and
you
when you've
resent being
gone
pushed
through,
that way.
and it's like if
Yeah.
you've gone through making a huge mistake in your life, and then you don't anymore, you know exactly what it's like to make that mistake.
And you observe it, and you're almost angry with that person for making that mistake.
Yeah, or just like I see myself in you. I see my younger self in you. I
Yeah.
see that like if there's like a recovered alcoholic looking at an alcoholic, they'd be like, I see exactly the rationalization you're thinking for why you were going to take another drink. But
But-
trust me, it's not like that. And I think that you can also see things that you know you don't have bad with yourself. I think you can
Totally agree.
notice in other people.
I think one thing I really disliked about myself when I was younger was when people were weak, like in a bad way, and I don't mean like
Hey.
ill. I don't mean like physically ill or disabled or anything. I just mean like people were just weak-minded. Like I used to look at them like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, sort it out, man. Just fucking sort. Do you know what I mean?
Weakness is such a is going back to that David and Goliath thing. It's such a perception based.
No, it was, but I just had no empathy at all for
Which
it.
is so, I find that
How do you
so
feel
unusual.
right now?
Yeah.
But I'm not like that now. I think what happened was I used to look at other people like that, and then at one point in my life, there was someone who I really cared about who was like that, and I was like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah.
I did the exact same thing.
And it just made us realise, like, it just made us more of a human. Like, it made us more like, oh, you need to soften up, you fucking cunt, you're an arsehole.
Also because you're actually quite a powerful person. Like,
And also I've got this strong inner belief that I could use to give that person to help them,
Yeah.
and I had to do that.
I think that's what happens. Like, if you have someone like a romantic partnership where you have someone that's like really, really strong-minded, nothing bothers them, then
This
someone
guy
else
literally
is
said
anxious inside.
romantic partnership. Holy indeed, what can I say?
Like the most-
What can I fucking say?
most.
that was a really.
He
interesting-
calls the relationship a romantic partnership. Oh my god.
Eckhart Tolle says this really interesting thing. and they
Okay,
say,
alright.
If you got
It's a different perspective, what can I
log,
say?
and you put a log that's not burning next to it, then that other log will begin to burn. And the whole idea is that, you know, you sort of, if you have a relationship with someone that's close, then the
Yeah.
other person will begin to burn in the same way as you do.
I realised that I could make people or break people who were close to us, like
Fantastic.
because
I look forward to that day.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You got a 50-50.
Yeah.
no, but like I just mean I know, like I didn't realise my strength of mind around other people, like how much I was impacting them.
Yeah, you can be a huge influence
I
if
was
you're
like,
like a strong
fucking hell.
personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got one last question for you, mate. How do you want to be remembered?
Remembered by whom?
By whoever you want, mate. If you look at the end of your life, you want someone to remember something.
Let's pay
about you.
attention.
I want, on a logical level, I want people to remember me as the person who's done a bunch of good in the world. But on an emotional level, I just want people to think that I was the kindest version of me that I could be. You know.
Nice one, mate. Thanks very much for coming on, pal. It's been absolutely class.
Fun, I appreciate it.
I hope you lot have enjoyed this. I certainly have. If you have, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to me, your mate, the True Geordie. Thanks for watching.
And now, but I really want to see how one of his podcasts look like or sound like. Can't even pronounce the plural of podcast. Podcasts. Ah, cringe. 56, 2, 3. This one. Or let's keep it on the same page with this poker meter, and it's giving it all away 4 weeks ago. Let's see.
Say got it on now. True Geordie hoodies, t-shirts.
Okay, let's skip that
This
plugin.
conversation we have is a 3-hour chat where we hold nothing back. Charlie flips it on me. He turns interviewer. He starts pulling out stuff from me about what I'm feeling about life right now, and it gets deep. So I really hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy
Shorty,
it, and you want to
wait.
see me and Charlie playing poker, you are in luck, because tomorrow night on Sunday,
Wait,
TG2 from 7 o'clock, we will be live, and I am playing me in a poker tournament where the winner gets 600 grand. Shout out to Poker Stars for
What the
making this
fuck?
possible. They put me in the tournament. Very kind of these guys. If you want to sign up and play in the next tournament, I'll also be playing in the following
I'm
Sunday.
really
You can
sure.
potentially have a chance of playing against me if you click the link in the description below.
Fights a
and sign up
permanent
with Poker
glove.
Stars. Big
What
love
the
to
fuck? Why
them.
can
They
I
absolutely
exchange
smashed
it?
putting this
What?
together. Charlie's been helping me behind the scenes with my poker
Oh,
game
that's
for a
why.
couple of months now. I've got to prove it now. This is the pressure's going to be on Sunday night. So if you want to swing by TG2 7 o'clock, I'll
Alright
see you
then.
there. But for now, enjoy the podcast, bitches.
If you want to go look back at the previous episodes, it's a very good example of two people who are in an extremely abusive relationship, and we were both completely unaware of it. There would be moments where I would be looking at her and say, please just promise me that you're not lying about anything else. And then I'd find out that that was a lie as well, and my head would just go into spins of paranoia about what else is she lying about and other things like that. I think the moment that
Okay,
really
full HD, there you go.
signified to me that, okay, this might be an abusive relationship definitively, is when it got physical. Just to paint Hannah in a better picture now, she is completely honest, one of the kindest people I've ever met, and I genuinely see her as an inspiration.
Wait, this is the same guy. Like,
You're one of the nicest people I've
nah.
ever met in my life. But you're a complete beast in poker. You're a horrible, nasty, aggressive
What?
bully.
It's the same guy. Now he's giving it all away 2 years later.
Charlie definitely
It's like I'm watching a fucking. I literally took the British element out of it. Wow, it's like I'm watching a fucking, I don't know. It's like a movie, a sequel of, and the sequel of the movie, the main movie. Kinda crazy.
preying on Liv's frustrations today.
When you're playing someone online, you'll Google them, get a picture of them up, and look at the picture. Try and feel, what potentially that person might do.
It's uncanny how much detail you can get about someone's past and someone's present and even someone's future sometimes when you can look deeply into their eyes and their face. You're like playing the other person like they're a fucking instrument.
6 of clubs. Charlie scoops.
You were seeing a spiritual guide.
She was one of the first introductions I had to people that did things that I thought were impossible. I thought were against the laws of physics, and I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say about me? So when I was younger, very, very bullied, had a lot of other abuse. My emotions, I stopped experiencing them viscerally, and I started only experiencing them cognitively. And so this allowed me to step outside of myself and to really craft myself into who I wanted to be. I was lucky enough that I could go into these situations and be that cold-hearted killer without having to do any work for it. It's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to cry, and it's actually in your best interest. And actually, it's probably the bravest thing somebody could do. We're born into a society where there are thousands of people who are homeless littered across the street. The way that I see life, if somebody suddenly decided to project all of their intention, all of their energy, all of their will, power, determination towards the point of doing as much good in the world as they possibly could, then they will very quickly discover exactly how rich and how beautiful life is meant to be.
I actually made notes for this one because I really wanted to make sure, because this is a different one, because this time it's personal.
Oh, yeah,
this time
it
it is
is.
personal, because when I first met you, I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing as a podcaster. I had no idea about poker, and I didn't know you. Now, 2 of those things have changed.
I think when we first met, there was this kind of mutual respect just through fascination. And since we've spoken to each other off the pod, I don't know, there's some love hanging in the air.
It's weird,
You
isn't
talk
it?
about him a weird amount.
Oh, really?
No, but
Yeah.
yeah, because
quite sweet.
because in the podcast, some of the people come and go, and then some become lifelong friends. And I would never have thought you'd have been one of the people who become a mate, like close friend.
You wouldn't usually see us two together in the
Definitely
street
not.
and be like, those two are gonna
But you know what I realised? I was thinking about this in the last 24 hours. I was like, how did we become such good friends? Because we look like we would never even meet each other, let alone be mates. But we do have a lot of things, like, we think quite similar.
2 years
about
later.
life.
2 fucking years
Also,
later.
I realised this is kind of like Ocean's 11.
It's a bonding
Do you know, like,
experience, or
sort of
I don't
assembling
know.
a
The relationship
group
is
of
bonding in
people
it.
who really shouldn't be around, but
Amen.
together, we're a nightmare for the people we go up against. Do you know
Whilst
what
I'm
I mean?
offended
Amen,
that I'm
amen.
not Danny Ocean, it makes me Brad Pitt, so I'm sort of happy about
Sorry,
that.
are you Brad Pitt? Because I thought
Brad Pitt's not the one who does the assembly. If you're the one, if you want to be Ocean, then you have to be
but
George
you're
Clooney.
the one who do the whole operation to get a woman back. I would never chase a woman like
Has anyone
that.
else not
great
seen this film since like
You've not seen
2011?
Ocean's 11.
I have when I was like 12.
If you're a douchebag, it's one of your favourite films. Come on.
But no, I feel what you mean. And I think that another reason is that in a world where shallowness is kind of the norm, I think just a sprinkle of authenticity goes a long way, and you recognize it in another person.
Real recognize real, and it's a corny statement, but it's a very true statement. And you are like unashamedly you, and you don't give a fuck.
Oh, I forgot
And I
this
like
as well. There we go.
I give a fuck.
Yeah, you
but
do. That's what
I know what you mean.
No,
like
you-
I will be me.
You place
no matter
importance
what, but-
on important things over people's opinions of you. So I think your priorities are right in regards to that.
Thank you. I mean, I do have a more vulnerable side. It just doesn't come out in public. So, like, after the last pod, for instance, an example of how internet hate can get to me, there were a few comments, and I checked a lot of the comments. There were a few comments about my laugh, and it made me really sad. You know, I was sitting next to Hannah being like, oh, it's my laugh.
Well, you have a nervous
It's my
laugh,
voice.
don't
I
you?
had a nervous laugh.
Did you
And I
get
don't
rid
think
of it after the pod?
So what I did is I thought about it. I was like, what is going on with my life? This isn't right. Like, laughs aren't meant to be irritating to people. So I went to a voice
Fuck.
coach. And I was like,
Literally,
what's going
cancel
on?
it now.
Why do I sound like this when, you know,
You
my
went to
voice is actually
voice
quite resonant when I'm by myself?
Coach to
And I
find
realized
out
it
if
wasn't
you're
my real voice, but that then took me onto singing coach, and it got me back into singing. I used to sing every single day as a kid. I used to be in cathedral choirs.
I was going to say I could totally imagine you in a choir.
I was, man.
I bet
yeah.
you hit the high notes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Allegri and hitting that top C. Yeah, so it was.
I
one
feel
of
bad
those,
now because I feel like
Nah, man.
you
it's
felt
good.
negative after that.
It was one
Unleash
of
the
those
wolf.
moments where I could have just been like, "Oh, fuck these guys, fuck whoever's commenting. Internet hate is going to be."
So
hate."
you've read what I have to say about it.
But at the same time, I think that it was very good for me to take it on board and just be like, even though this hurts, I'm gonna listen to what they're saying and see the truth in it, even if
But
it's not
to a
coming from
degree
good place.
that's healthy. But I find, like, especially if you're going through a downward period in your life where you're not feeling good about yourself, then being on the internet is like, so we're not meant to be reading millions of people comment about our personality and
Not evolved
scrutinise
for
us.
that shit.
No human is meant for that. Some cope with it better than others. Personally, I don't like it. I don't want it. Like, if it was up to me, I'd probably turn the comments off. But I just leave them on because
Nobody wants to go to a YouTube thing without comments.
Okay.
Comments are the best thing
Well,
about a YouTube
All right,
video.
okay. Well, the
Don't you
content-
dare
the
touch our
best thing.
comments.
The content's
I'm speaking
pretty
for the
good.
Yeah.
people.
Most YouTube videos.
But personally, yeah, I don't like it very much because it is, you know, it's hard to just be yourself. So the more people have a go at you, the more people are like, oh, well, he said this and he didn't say that properly and he didn't perfectly make a completely well-rounded argument because guess what? He was shooting from, you know, his seat and he was just saying what was on his mind at that perfect time. He didn't write an essay and then come and present it. It was just in conversation. And people don't get, like, when you can sit at home and fully evaluate something and take your time and write a really long-winded couple of paragraphs about why I'm wrong about something. It's like, well, maybe that's true, but I also don't have, you know, I'm just talking off the top of my head sometimes and I will make a mistake.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think that everyone listening and criticizing is also going to have 100,000 stupid opinions themselves. It's just that they're not presenting them to a huge
Dude.
audience. Like, every single one of us has loads of stupid opinions. We're all deluded. We're all stupid. We're all
Yeah.
humans.
Essentially.
Who
But-
the fuck
But not everyone does it for 3 hours
is
on
farming
a podcast
my...
and puts it out to a million
No,
people.
Not many
dude.
people are
Stop,
stupid.
dumbass.
It's all, yeah. I think that I just have to switch off from that person and go be myself because I did get
Should
into the habit of
we-
reading those
should we
comments
handle
around and
the-
it was like, well, I'm not even in a place to. I don't even like my own opinion of myself, let alone your opinion. Like,
Sometimes it can be more that it's either an extremely wrong
Like,
opinion
really?
or an
Move!
extremely right opinion that
Yeah,
bothers
they
you though.
both
Like,
hurt.
like with your laugh, maybe there was something
don't-
subconscious that you knew about that. And when you say you sort of found your real voice, or you knew it wasn't your real voice,
Like,
Yeah, I think it's
move
really
your ass
on
from
it,
my
yeah.
it sort
fucking
of triggered
channel, cuz.
you in a good way.
You see
to
that
go
it is
on that journey.
fucking
And that
occupied,
is
and
what
you
I
are like,
think. I mean,
maybe
it's also
two people
related
can
to
sit on
childhood,
it.
and I'm actually curious how both
stay on
of
the
your
same
childhoods
channel?
were in comparison to how you
Nah.
handle internet hate now, because I know that
Nah.
when I was growing up, had Asperger's,
That's a
still kind
cap.
of do, and
No, I
people
don't
would
have any
criticize me
stones
not
for
just
like
for the way that
5
I talk,
minutes.
for the way that
I'm
I
not gonna
walk,
change
that
it.
I can't hold eye
I'd rather
contact,
kill
that
him
I
in
can't
2
hold
skills every
conversation,
single time I see
in fact,
him,
that
but
I
like,
can't articulate any of my
dude.
emotions. So there's still a little part of me that hasn't completely healed from that.
wait,
And
you
so
want
when I hear
PvP?
somebody saying,
Wait.
"Ah, look at that guy,
Wait.
he's dressed like an idiot," it's like, well,
Oh, let
little
me
kid
get this.
decides me not to
Okay,
do it. I
buddy.
don't know how to dress
Alright,
like not an
you
idiot.
want the
So did you
business, huh?
guys have tough childhoods? My guess would be that you had a really
Right,
tough
let's
one,
get
but I
it,
don't
let's
know
get it,
if
let's
it's,
get it.
For sure.
In
I'm not sure
in
about
terms
that.
of how other kids would treat
Ooh,
me,
Yeah, yeah.
7k.
Or family, or
I was very loved, to be honest. Like that's the first thing.
bad breed me.
No, but like
Listen.
by
The most I
should
didn't
play
require with the
poker, by the
damage
way.
rate of resistances.
You win a lot of money.
no,
They would put this on.
I
he
by
will
the
deal
people who mattered,
really
I was loved.
low
But by
amounts
the
of
people who
damage.
didn't matter so
There you
much,
go.
maybe at school or whatever. Everyone has
He
those
left.
moments where someone's saying something about them and that you're in a fight. I was just ready to punch basically if I had to. Like at that point when I was like a teenage kid or whatever.
Rosta.
When did you throw your first punch?
Coming out the womb.
Well,
Here
I
comes
remember,
the resume message
I
from
remember being like 8
Stage.
years old and
Shuno,
being in a fight with a kid
Shuno,
at school, and like it got separated, and like we didn't really get going, and I remember
Carpathians.
this kid goes to me, look at you, like you know when you're really nervous and like angry and I was like teary-eyed, I was like really into this fight.
Ok, to della
And then
faccia
he was
poi
like,
c'è la
I nearly had you
combinazione come
crying.
muore.
And at that point I was like, oh, this is on now.
Yeah.
So I just walked straight over to him. And what the fuck did you say? I nearly had you crying. I just whacked him one right in the nose, flattened his fucking nose. Next thing I know, I'm in the headmaster's office. I'm like, and then he's got, we're both here, and I'm like, sorry, mate. Yeah, and actually, like, was sorry, but in that heat of that moment, I think I just realised, like, it's a in children, it's really like a kill or be killed, ironically, which.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. There's a certain like strain of sociopathy that runs around children, I think, because
Yeah.
they just haven't developed the empathy.
That's
and
that Lord of the
social
Flies
skills.
type thing, isn't it? Where you know, if they weren't taught to mature and whatever, you fuck knows how it would go.
Here's the interesting thing. There was actually the exact case of Lord of the Flies happened somewhere in the world. Yeah, and the
Do
exact.
you want to describe to people who don't know what we're on about?
Yeah, I mean, in the very general terms, they get stranded on a desert island, and it all goes to rat shit, like you say,
It
and
was,
they all
it was
sort
a
of
book
turn on
written
each
about
other.
kids who they basically turn on each other when left unregulated and unparented.
Yeah, and that exact scenario actually happened, and ultimately it went the other way. The kids actually found the best in each other, and I think they built like all this stuff on the island until they were found.
Yeah, and there's some of them still friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Which is crazy.
ironically, that was my mentality coming into the YouTube comments sort of side of things. Of like when people would write stuff, I'd go, "If he was in front of me right now, I'd fucking kill him." You
I
know?
have
But you also
that.
probably wouldn't say that.
But
if you were
I let go of that after a while because I realised that's why they take like. So when I went through all my like everyone having a go at me and that, I realised like you're the alpha male, mate. That people are getting their one chance to have a pop at you because in person. I'll be honest, actually, I did have one or two people say something in person to me when I was out on a night out. And,
Wow. People that recognize you thought they'd take a crack.
no, I think
How drunk
it
can you
wasn't.
be?
It wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't know if it was. They realised the severity of the situation, but let's just say they quickly realised the severity of the situation when they were flying across the fucking room, like
Jesus Christ.
I was like, I'm not fucking around, like
Do you
because
think
I'd had
there's
so much in their hair, I just
dropped an
was
E
like,
with them, I
Do
see.
you think,
Czekaj, ja
so do you think it was all
a
just
diáka
building
így
up from all the
csendben
comments that
beírom.
you'd
I don't know, but in my head it was like
Most que síszak volna, hanem
it was one of those things where I just seeing like red. It was like this is my chance. I finally got someone dumb enough to go at me in person about this. So I just let my right hand fucking fly me. Like.
I don't think that's the optimal decision. I think that it's probably.
Oh, it's definitely a mistake.
I think the game is to try and control yourself in those spots.
Oh, absolutely. But I think at that point it was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself a pass today. Tomorrow, I'll be a better man.
patient enough.
But for one day, You've earned this, pal.
Sat there on your laurels.
Well,
for the-
I sat
Qua
down.
è
That's
la
like-
placa,
Yeah, it was fun,
șefule,
mate. But,
facem
No,
cum
I
facem,
feel you.
dar
And I
pe
think
bune
that
că nu-mi
there are a
place.
lot of reasons why people seem to
Go
get so
and shoot your own.
aggressively critical on the
Pe
internet. I think the
do-te.
main thing is that there's such a huge anonymity and a lack of accountability. And I really think that people could change that if Twitter made conscious efforts to make
Twitter care the least about mental health.
I feel
That
you.
is the most toxic platform.
I
but-
actually deleted my Twitter because I was getting so much.
Yeah, I think that's
sort of hate on
healthy.
it. And even though it was probably like 2% of the comments were hateful, it was still just enough that I noticed that when I was opening the app, I was like feeling a bit anxious, and I just don't want that in my life.
You know what it is, bro? If I didn't have to do, my passion in life is to create content. If I wasn't a content creator, I wouldn't be on any social media ever. If I was just a bricklayer from Newcastle doing my thing, I'd be like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'll have the actual mates who I see in person. I wouldn't have anyone out there.
Just
You know
давай
what I
щось
mean?
fuck it.
Because I think that it's just better, isn't it, to be real? You know what I mean? In this world that we're in now.
I thought I was very naive when going into Twitter, thinking, hey, if I just bring kindness, love, patience, and acceptance to all these angry people, I'm sure they'll eventually realize.
Because people are going to look at you and go, this happy fucking millionaire poker cunt is pissing me right off. You know, him and his happiness.
That was
Fuck
almost, that was almost like a whole different world, though, wasn't it? It feels like since everything that's happened with the pandemic and all the sort of socially conscious movements after that, people almost will react differently to you now, or to someone who goes, "I just want
think
to bring
so?
peace." Yeah, definitely.
So what I noticed that there seemed to be a huge just step down from the social justice attacking people online, like the cancel culture, all different things like that, and then Corona had about a month of fame, and everyone was just speaking about Corona. You couldn't walk down a street in London without somebody speaking about Corona.
Well, you
And
can
then
walk down a
everyone-
street in London.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people could.
Yeah.
But and then I think people just got bored, and people realized that it might not be as serious as though it's going to, wipe out 1% of the population of the world or something like that. And then the cancel culture just came back, and it felt like it had been building up for so long.
It was an elastic band effect,
Exactly,
almost,
yeah.
wasn't it? This is the worst it's ever been. I think that, if we were to have some sort of thermometer of some sort of human mood across the planet, I bet you we'd be the lowest we've ever been as a population.
Yeah, they have that clock that's like counting down to doomsday of how close we are to just like completely destroying
Fuck
ourselves.
me, I bet
And
you're
it's the
closer
closest
than-
it's been.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Do you ever think those things are almost like self-fulfilling prophecies, though? Because there's people who vote for Donald Trump in America because they genuinely believe that he is the president that will bring around.
Wait,
the
I don't
prophecy
think
or
people are
whatever.
voting for Trump
And,
because
like,
they
it
believe
does become
that.
self-fulfilling
Just
prophecy. So
voting
people go, the
for
world is
Trump
getting
because
worse, and then they go out there and they make
the
it
other option is just
on a
that shit.
metaphysical level, I actually do agree with you. I agree that if you believe something will happen, there's a lot higher chance that it will happen.
Oh,
Even
another
just on a
one.
psychological level,
Another
little
kid doing
subconscious things
his
you do.
thing.
Like if you go out into the world believing, I'm gonna
Nah,
crush this podcast world,
dude.
I'm gonna get 5 million
Like,
subscribers.
change the fucking
then you're
channel,
gonna-
cuz.
you're gonna come across like
I'm
someone
trying to
that's-
level
that
up.
does that.
You believe in the law of attraction, don't you?
I was gonna dance around the subject so nobody thought that I was a crazy hippie, but yeah.
That ship sailed a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry, you've seen the previous two podcasts.
Right. But the thing, all right. So when
Wait,
we
there is
first,
another one with
I
him,
was
alright.
an atheist. I was rationalist. I was a naturalist. I was a huge hyper skeptical person. But over the last 3 or 4 years, I've had so many crazy experiences where people have shown me things that broke what I previously thought were the law of physics and broke what I previously thought were in the realms of
Didn't know the laws of physics then.
Is there a standout moment out of those?
oh, man.
They showed you some magic tricks.
Which one? So
What do you
let's
mean?
take Hannah,
Broke
for
the
instance.
laws of physics.
Um,
There are so many
Hannah's
things
here.
physics can't
He's
explain,
on the
but
front. Previous
from
podcast.
the last podcast,
don't
just, to
think
give,
those
just
are
to give a brief
the
overview.
ones that
Hannah
surprised you
and
that
I
much.
started dating at 3.5
A
years
major
ago.
question.
She's here with us now.
The existence
She's
of a
not here with us in
divinity or
spirit.
not.
She's
She's
actually
actually in the room. She's not dead. She's actually here. Yeah.
Armored
She's watching
son.
over me. As I
Yeah.
say.
Get out.
And
That's what you would have wanted.
Yeah.
when we
From Oregon.
when we met, she had been diagnosed with DID, multiple personality disorder, and currently she does not have DID, multiple personality disorder. And I would like to say I know that the the natural response to DID is to be hyper skeptical of it, and I was, and even she was when she was experiencing it. But it's not a controversial issue within the psychological community. There's huge amounts of scientific literature on it. But there is a big debate in the DID community about whether it is right to try and integrate, meaning become one, or whether it's more of a personal decision. And sometimes it's better to stay as 10, sometimes it's better to stay as even 50, or sometimes it might be better to integrate.
What's the argument for that?
I think
for non-integration.
For non-integration, I think that people say that it's just personal autonomy, and I actually really, as much as I really do think most arguments do have a very particular middle point, and I like to see sides from both. I actually think in this specific case, it's actually much further on the side of it's always better to aim for integration, even if you can't at a specific moment, because there's so many like abusive people around you. You don't have the safety to release the trauma and to become you again. And you have to have this defense mechanism continue to
David
to
Blaine.
function.
Is that
If one is in a safe environment, I do 100% believe.
Yeah, that guy.
it's
That
better
guy I
to-
was referencing.
to be aligned. Your body and your mind's in alignment, resonating with each other, so they're not disconnected. So you're not thinking you're one thing and you are another thing. Because I've seen it in person. I've seen it in a lot of other people as well. It causes havoc. It causes mayhem within a person. So getting back to the metaphysical thing, we were trying to heal. Hannah had finally come to the decision that she wanted to integrate music to my ears. And I mean, as much as it's fun to date
You
somebody,
read a man and you're like, yeah, I get what you mean. Like, it must be difficult being the other guy in the room when that's happening.
I think we spoke about that on the last podcast, how it's sort of a load to carry if one side is less aligned than the other in a sense.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a load for both of us to carry, and I actually probably won't speak about it unless it comes up organically in the conversation later. But just if anybody listening is curious, if you want to go look back at the previous episodes, it's a very good example of two people who are in an extremely abusive relationship, where she was extremely abusive to me during that period, and we were both completely unaware of it. Completely unaware of it, and it really did, it destroyed me for
Well,
quite a while.
actually, it didn't show though. You were very happy together. You
Got a
were very
good poker
giggly.
face.
Yeah, good poker face. I know that we're coming to a point about what made you believe this, but it didn't show. When you told me that privately recently, I was like, wow. Like, especially when you describe abuse. When you meet Hannah, obviously, she looks like an
so
angel.
unassuming,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah, but it just shows like, and I think that's a problem in society right now with men aren't really being heard, and there's a lot of men who are in. I know men who are not necessarily physically abusive relationships, but I know personally just as many men in mentally abusive relationships as women are.
Have either of you been in one?
I would say I've been in a very difficult situation before where I felt like I'm losing who I am because I'm being manipulated,
Can you give an example of what she meant?
So I want to go to the gym today, and that's an issue. Why is that
Are you
an
choosing
issue?
the gym over me?
Yeah, well, or there was reasons why I just couldn't go to the gym. You know what I mean? And at first you sort of go, all right, and then you realise like, now when I want to go to the gym, I'm feeling anxiety. Why is that anxiety all of a sudden there? Is that because I'm being told, or I'm having to deal with the backlash, or the tantrum, or the behaviour, and that might seem fairly innocent. Oh, she just wants to spend more time with you. No, that's a real problem. If you don't have free will in a relationship for whatever reason, whatever barrier is being put in there, and it could be this, it could be that in itself is nowhere near as abusive as some relationships can get, but it's not healthy.
Yeah,
That's a very complex situation to unpick as well. I
Yeah,
imagine,
and I'm
because
using I'll be honest, but before we move
very
on,
low level.
I'm using a very low level example of things that I've experienced so that people can recognise what I'm on about. But it's
nice.
been worse than that.
It's also probably worth pointing out that I think that a lot of people who are in abusive relationships probably don't realise it, like you were saying, and B, are probably not the kind of people that you look at and go, oh, they're in an abusive relationship,
Yeah.
because you will tend to not identify as an abused person or those kind of things, and so then people can probably get sucked into that kind of a cycle when you're completely unaware of it.
Yeah, and-
especially we
But
talk about the drama triangle quite a lot, but if
You
you,
heard of the drama triangle? Yeah, we talk about
if
it.
you've, I mean, I'd imagine you two have unpicked your abusive relationship at this point, both ways, or at least trying to. I don't know what state you're at, but you go from the hero to the perpetrator to the victim, and continually just go around the triangle. And in many ways, I think on the last podcast, you were very much portraying yourself in the hero state.
You felt like a hero. It felt like that way with how you kind of rescued your girlfriend from
I
the situation
think
she was in.
subconsciously you might be right. I think there was a part of me. I don't think it was a huge part. I mean, a lot of it was just I love her so deeply, so deeply. But I think there was a part of me that was taking pride in the fact that she had
So
been
he's not poorly
her
anymore.
whole life through abuse and through neglect and like the most intense abuse you can imagine a person going through.
So poorly
And I was
anymore.
providing her an outlet
Yeah,
to release.
The hero,
These
yeah.
things are.
And
Alex,
that is not a healthy way
I
to
don't
live.
know how
So
to
the
phrase it.
rescuer,
Thing in
yeah.
hindsight,
But these things existed for
it's
so
a tough
long.
place to build a relationship.
Difference
from,
is
and
just
you are
that
kind of,
people
as much
nowadays
as you
call
love
it
her so much, it's very
like
hard
being
to start
poorly,
at
being
a place
whatever,
where
whatever the fuck.
She's come from a difficult
Just
place.
puts
and
an
you're trying
etiquette
to,
on-
rescue that, and you kind of
what's the
change the
French
circumstances,
term for
but the
it?
trauma that she's been through is still there, isn't it?
It's
Equally,
basically
though,
a label,
I've also
like-
been through a lot of
Yeah, let's
stuff.
label
And I would
emotions
like to also point
and-
out that what you said, I think, is really prudent.
Shit.
That I never identified
I
as
don't
someone
know.
who's
I
abused
don't know.
because I hate the idea of being a victim. I
Mm.
hate the idea of
What
being
are you
seen as a
talking
victim.
about?
I will never consider myself a victim, no matter what happens. to me.
But it's okay to be a victim as well. Like if I feel like I've spoken to lately, the older I get, it's only now that I personally realise how many women have been a victim of sexual, abuse or
Coercion, yeah.
someone do it, like not necessarily as bad as it gets, but so many women just have been a victim of subjected to something bad in that way. And it's the reason they don't talk about it is exactly what you've just said, is they don't want anyone to know and look at them differently and to feel about them differently.
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's more of a semantic difference in a sense, because I think that people do struggle of saying this terrible thing happened to me because they don't want to face it, or they don't want other people to see them differently. But I think that to label someone as a victim, I think is really powerful. I think the words hold so much intrinsic power in them, and labels especially. If you call yourself a left wing or a right wing, then suddenly it becomes you. You start seeing the world through that dimension or that lens.
Yeah, and Lawrence often tells me, this makes this point, you're not permanently that one thing forever. You can be a victim in that moment, but you can change and you move on from that kind of.
Yeah, and you can also reframe things. And I think
Yeah.
that obviously that part of the problem with any of those three labels is that they feel very definite. They probably evoke different emotions in different people. When you hear the word hero, you think of different things. But a lot of people now, especially with phrases like victim blaming or those kind of things, they don't really want to go into that area and become that sort of person, because also you get reduced to just being that to everyone else, and everyone else goes, well, that's the victim.
Yeah.
And it's not that simple in anyone's life. Like, it's not that simple in the relationship that you're in or you're in. Neither of you are going, I'm the victim and that's completely me, and no one wants to be that. But it becomes very easy, and actually victimhood, I also think, is quite an alluring state to be in sometimes.
For some people.
For some
not,
people.
Not for you, obviously,
Yeah.
because you rejected that. But just out of interest, and only whatever you feel comfortable sharing, of course, what was the low point for you in terms of being on the receiving end of that abuse? Was there a moment or a series of things where you were like, this was how bad it got?
I don't think there was a specific moment that just ended things. I think it was just kind of the final straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. But getting a bit anxious speaking about this, so bear with me. But
It's all right, man.
there were moments where I had found out that she'd been lying, and it wasn't like she was cheating on me. It wasn't like she was lying about serious things. But when somebody you love so deeply is lying to you, that's not abuse.
The same guy was a poly, aka he loved to just, I don't know, shallow fucking, he had no emotions. Or maybe he didn't want to take himself as a sociopath because he wasn't feeling bad for anyone's feelings, and he just wanted to fuck body. That doesn't really make you a poly. He maybe just resonated with the idea of it, I don't know, I'm not sure. And now he loves somebody so much that he couldn't even allow her. Allow might not be the perfect term in this situation, but for the sake of it, just keep it. Allow her to lie to him, or be fine with her lying to him on some random bullshit. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. It's basically the exactly 180 degrees opposite end of the spectrum. Interesting. Let's keep
Myself.
it rolling.
But there would be moments where I would be looking at her and say, please just promise me that you're not lying about anything else. And she would look me in the eyes and say, I promise. And then I'd find out that
Anything
was a lie
else?
about her,
Oh,
and
I
we're just
see.
going to spins of paranoia about what else is
Alright, this is the worst time to fucking stop or pause the video. There is no way this one
to
will.
me that, okay, this might be an abusive
Yo
relationship,
gato,
definitively,
son
is when
memes
it got
porfa, I
physical.
cannot
And I think
pronounce
that
your
might
name,
be
you
one
want me
of
to
the
watch the
dangers
video?
of especially
What's this?
men to women abuse, is that it's hard to identify what's abuse and what's not. You know, a lot of stuff could be grey area, and especially when you get in relationships, there's this
These cod
warping
zombies?
of reality.
I don't even know.
Where suddenly
Nothing
your
is
reality
called zombies.
is our reality kind of thing. And you can see that
Fuck,
some
what is the
things
fuck client?
might be
There we go.
bad, but you wouldn't see
Oh,
how bad it is until you take a
1.8k.
step back.
Gimme
So
it.
I think I was lucky in a sense that it got physical a couple of times. So then I could say, okay, that is too far. That's definitely enough for me. But
Wait,
looking
this
back,
guy got
physical
bait,
abuse was
bit
nothing
up by a
compared to
woman.
the bad things that
Nah,
I would
cut the
like to
cap,
ask
cut the
you to
cap,
take Hannah in a
cut the
picture
cap.
now.
No
She
way.
is completely honest, one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Completely
She's
honest and
genuinely all
beat
she
your
wants to
ass.
do is help people, help animals,
And
help
she
the planet.
beat your
She's
ass.
changed
Nah.
so much, and I genuinely see her as an inspiration in so many ways. That if she can go
I mean,
through what she
technically it would
went
be my
through,
meat on her
like
ass.
from the, a
What
few
you
years ago,
mean, cuz?
and come out the other side still loving the world, not blaming the people that hurt her. You know, even though there were
Wait.
people that sexually abused her, she's not saying
Wait,
those
I'm
people are
confused.
monsters. What she would say, and I'm
I
sure
see-
she wouldn't
I
mind
look like a
me speaking
dumbass.
for her 'cause I
No,
know her
still
so
look,
deeply,
but
she would say
I feel like a
what
dumbass.
they did was monstrous.
Or a
but these aren't
jackass,
monstrous
not a
people.
dumbass,
We all
rather a
have
fucking
evil.
asshole, I meant to say.
We all have the capability to be murderers or rapists or pillagers. Even not every single one of us.
I
would
cannot
have all of
focus my
those things
ADHD
inside of us,
to-
but I think every single one of us has that shadow side, like their Jungian archetype.
I'm not
shadow
made
side.
for this kind of
How do you look to
podcast.
integrate that in some way? And you have to face the place you least want to look is the place you have to
But I
look.
think it's the
That's
best
right.
exercise
And I think it's
to
important to remember that with cancel culture. Just
I don't
wanting
know.
to demonize people and lock people into
figure
something they
out
said 10
how to
years ago.
concentrate
It's
on
like,
tasks,
people
because
can
if I can
change,
concentrate on
like,
people
so
speaking,
much.
I
And it's
don't
impressive when
think I
people
could
change.
Yeah.
concentrate
I would
on doing
rather
anything
be
else.
friends with somebody who used to be a terrible person
It's
and
like
has
training.
become aware of that and changed than somebody that's just been an angel their entire life.
Me
because-
too.
There you go, bro.
Because what I've realized from angels is that the devil's just waiting to pop out at the right moment. I've met people who, on the surface, they just seem so harmless and just like a little fluffy puppy. But when put in a pressure cooker situation, that's when the malice comes out, and that's when their insecurities come out.
Fucking telling me.
Oh yeah.
That is a bit.
Pressure.
I think you can see that quite often though, and to expect that is kind of a good thing. It's less naive to know that everyone embodies that, because I think you can get, especially in a relationship where you really want to love someone, that you really want to see the best in that person. And I was kind of conscious of that when we were talking about it, because I thought, well, clearly you two have
But
worked
why the
something
fuck
through.
do you want to see the best?
And then
I didn't mean
She's
to
literally sitting in a
break
room
it,
right here.
whatever,
For
I
anyone who's
think I
not
got a double
watching,
drop it.
for anyone who's watching or can't see it, like. You can
I
go
didn't.
through abuse. You can probably be an
Fuck
abusive
this shit.
person at some point and change, and maybe learn from that and those kind of things. And it's the want to cancel those kind of people, or also the want at some point to go, the best thing to do in your life is just to cut all those toxic people out. And it's like, well, at some point you're going to end up quite lonely if you just end up every time you have a bad experience
To
just
be
going.
fair, I completely agree with everything apart from the last bit. I do think it is crucial to cut out toxic people.
But what
And
I
that
mean is,
doesn't
you,
mean that
but
they
what,
are toxic
but that what
people.
I'm actually saying by that is,
I
I mean,
mean,
you can't cut every
how-
person
how
out.
do
So
you
you have to
define
work out who's
somebody
toxic
being
and you need to
toxic?
cut,
Okay, yeah,
and
I'm
you
with
need to work out who's worth sticking with.
Yeah.
If you cut everyone in your life, that's never going to work.
Yeah, no, no, you're completely right. I misunderstood what you're saying. Yeah, I think that it's something that I think a lot of people go through in a spiritual development, or if you prefer psychological development, when you start to really love yourself and appreciate your own time and appreciate what you have to do in the world and your responsibilities.
had the
you start
fucking
not taking as much shit.
Wind
You know, you
helmet,
have
I would be
somebody
so
that,
much better off.
You know, isn't happy for your success and really tries to tear you down whenever
I could
you
literally
succeed.
farm with
which I'm
this.
sure both of you have met a lot of people.
Mm,
that have
20
that
more
kind of thing.
piercing
Well,
strike,
suddenly, if
to
you start
be
respecting yourself,
a bit
well, it's like,
faster,
well,
like
I'm now not
15%
gonna put
faster.
up
I'm not even sure. I should
but yeah,
run
I
the
think you're right. I
maths,
think
but
there's a bit of
don't really
toxicity
feel
in
like
all of
it.
us, and everyone just has to find out where they're drawing.
so I just
And own it.
spit out
I
the
think
number
drawing
on
the
my
line
ass.
is a really important thing as you get older and become a man. Like we've been talking about this a little bit lately on a previous podcast. Like what you're willing to tolerate in life, you need to be. I think we when we're younger, we bend the rules a lot about what we're willing to. You know, pretty face can make you just forget everything. You know, and I've been there.
Pretty face can just, yeah.
You
it's
bend
actually
over
true.
backwards for people. You bend
That's
the rules, and
factual. What
you
can I
get
say?
hurt enough times. Eventually, you just go. You see this. This is where we're at. Never. I'm never moving past this now. This is it. This is me. This is who I really am. And now, when I speak to people, man, women, whatever the fuck's going on, like friends or whatever, I'm me. And I'm going to be more honest in future. And I think that's the best way to live your life, and know who you are. And it's hard to get there. You got to be hurt in order to get there.
No, I'm with
Yeah.
you, brother. I think that the best thing about being yourself to other people is that you start to get a lot deeper relationships, because now they're in a relationship with you instead of something that you portrayed yourself to be.
Because you wanted to impress them, or you were trying to do this half and half of, here's half me, half my PA. You know what I mean?
So what are the lines in the sand that you've drawn? For me, one is lying. If somebody even does like a white lie, you know, I'll maybe say, please never do that again. Consciously, maybe it comes out accidentally, and that's fine. But if they consciously lie to me, then I'm just like, I can't.
I think
be
the
friends with you.
part for me, it was my lying. It was me trying to not have to tell people shit that I just couldn't be bothered to explain, or, you know, when people ask you about, like your upbringing or things that you just rather not talk about, and painful stuff or whatever. For me, it's like, I'm going to be more myself now, and if there's something that person says that I disagree with, doesn't matter how big our ass is, I'm gonna be like, you're talking shit, you know what I mean, or whatever. Not in a nasty way. I just mean, like, in the past, I think you can set your whole potential relationship up for failure by being that half you, half the guy you think she wants you to be, when really it's much better to just be unashamedly you know, because ultimately that's who the fuck they're going to be left with in 10 years.
Out of interest, looking back when you were avoiding those types of conversations, sorry, just massaging myself. When you're avoiding those types of conversations, do you think you were doing it out of fear of facing parts of you?
There's also a laziness there. It's like, this is going to be painful. Like, also,
That doesn't sound like laziness. That sounds like fear.
well, maybe, yeah. I think, yeah, it's like an uncomfortable, we got to go through this conversation and that conversation now, and, you know, digging deep as well afterwards. It's not necessarily fear, it's just not wanting to have to go there with someone. And the older you get, I think the more you're just like, nah, you just need to fucking
You gotta
let it
face
go.
that stuff head
yeah,
on, man. You
Yeah, and I
gotta-
think I have now, you know, so.
You also work out whether it's worth going there, and then you kind of think, do I actually want to kind of?
Well, that was only one of the lines in the sand I've drawn, really, but that was one that came to mind when you said about lying and stuff. But I also just think it's super important, if we're going to actually try to do this shit where we're going to spend the rest of our life with one person, which is fucking hard, to know what the fuck you want from that person before you even meet that person, because otherwise, you know, if you're wandering aimlessly through life thinking that,
couldn't
you know,
read that on
I'm
the
just going to meet the
Farmer.
right guy,
I
and he's
should
gonna come
just
along,
read
he's
them on
gonna
the
be
Farmer for
perfect.
some
Like,
reason. I'm
you've
not
got to
doing
know
that,
what
but-
your perfect is that you're actually looking for, and most people don't even think about compatibility. Like, that isn't even in their head. Like, and I think just knowing what I expect from a person is actually the start of actually being with the right person.
You kind of have to be in relationships in order to realize that, in a sense, though.
You have to have a failed relationship at the start, at least, to
you need
to understand.
to try and fail and get Microsoft 2000 out and see what comes after that. So I've got a few things I want to say, but question. What you're
Who's the
saying,
podcaster
what
here?
you're saying,
Podcast viewers,
what you're saying now, I
Wait.
would say to me as an avid viewer of your podcast, almost contradicts the you that I saw when you were speaking to.
This guy's pretty,
Daniel
like,
Zarian.
pretty chill.
So do you feel like you
don't
weren't
even
being
know.
real there, or do you feel like you've
Should I
changed since?
Well,
watch
it
more of
might
him
seem
and less
silly
of
to
Joe
you
Rogan?
or other people, but
My
like,
spare time? Or not really watching.
I was in a totally wrong state of
listen
mind in
to
that
the
time.
podcast.
Like, I was in a
Same shit.
crazy fucking place in my head where it was like, YouTube's Wolf of Wall Street type attitude. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
really?
So that's
No
not.
way.
It's not a good idea to be that
Dude, the
person.
fame gets to everyone.
Well, yeah, I was an arsehole, putting it bluntly.
In what way?
I think you also had a problem with your arse. You had. You were not well on that day.
Well, yeah, I was
Yeah.
shitting through the eye of a needle, bless
Yeah.
me, because I had bad diarrhea that day.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke about.
No. Believe,
So did I for a second.
no. Believe me, I'm not that stupid. First of all, but secondly, I think it's
not
also
after
a
the
saying.
story I
Are those
told.
jokes off the table? Because I feel like I got a few brewing.
Okay. Wow.
So to speak.
You know, let's just see how Brian reacts and see what we get.
Well, I mean, I think you could hold your own. You're a pretty good poker player, maybe a good boxer.
Just remember when he talked about the punching the person who, yeah.
How long's your reach? Is it this table long?
82 inch.
He dives far. I'll put it that way.
All right, so yeah, I was in a bad place in my head then. It was all like, I mean, I was quite drunk during that podcast. I wasn't caring about myself. I hadn't been looking after myself. I didn't have the right priorities. The person who I once was just gone. I don't know, you know what I mean? I just fucking don't get me wrong, I could still have a conversation with people and still I wasn't completely gone, but I was really losing grip of the person that I am.
Do you remember when you phoned me? It was soon after that, I think, and I said to you, and I still see you like this, that I almost see you as having these two pathways ahead of you, and you're currently having like this internal battle about which one to go down. And one of them's like the dark pathway of trying to be like Dan Bilzerian, fuck all these bitches and get all this fame. And one of them's the pathway of light, where you just want to be yourself, you want to change the world, you want to be as successful, but you also want to help people.
Yeah, in the last month even, I've really had a conversation with myself about exactly what you're talking about. And I've made my mind up on that, yeah.
How have you seen his progression towards those two?
Well, I've had the experience of being able to step back from it all anyway and watch the whole journey. So from like the very beginning, and not only that, but experience Brian through other people as well, and kind of you when you're working with someone, as we intensely work, but then also have other people come along, see who we work well with, see who we don't work well with. I definitely do think the last month has been like a particular change in your tone and personality, I'd say. But yeah, I think
in what way?
We had that conversation recently about things. Didn't
and just more clarity. I think you're just much more clear now. Whereas I actually think you, not to be disrespectful, you were quite confused as to what you wanted
Absolutely.
before.
It's very hard to be decisive when the things that you thought were important are thrown at you with ease, and then you have to then go, well, is this important?
And does it make you happy?
And does it make you happy? Yeah, and money, while it removes some of the stresses of life, obviously doesn't make you happy. Really doesn't. Fuck me.
Maybe by
it's
some
very
tools
hard
that
to
you can
understand that
use in order
when I didn't have
to
it.
be happy. Maybe
And
that's how
having money
you
don't
should
get me wrong,
look at
removes
it.
a lot of the stresses, but that's all it does. It still doesn't. It takes away stuff, but it doesn't give you much. Do you know what I mean?
I agree and I disagree. I agree that, there's no correlation between money and happiness. There have been studies done on this. But at the same time, I do see money as a tool, almost like energy.
Exactly.
Like potential energy.
Dude, this guy thinks.
I wasn't using it in the
from
right
this
way.
aspect,
Exactly.
it's
At all.
basically
I wasn't
on spot.
and I was confused,
father.
and I was thinking, I was a fucking mess, to be honest with you.
So if you were going to speak to Dan Bilzerian now, how do you think you might change
we
the
wouldn't
podcast?
speak to Dan Bilzerian.
That is number one.
Yeah, I think I don't know. The whole Dan Bilzerian thing was just a weird time for me.
Fuck is Dan Bilzerian?
So rather than picking on him or whatever, it's more just about me. You know what I mean? It's like I'm becoming a better person, and I'm really focusing on being a better version of myself. And I think that that's something it's now becoming a achievable goal. Like where I'm just that's a genuine itch, by the way, not body language. And I really sat and thought about this. You know what I mean? And like, who do I want to be now? And this is it.
Out of interest, do you, after going through this transformative phase, do you have any
Another one.
desire to go into
Making
like philanthropy
money,
or charity
making
or to help
moolah.
people who are in less fortunate positions?
Well, once I can fucking look
Dude,
after myself.
give me
and
more
that
of
might sound
those,
strange
dude.
sitting in a
20
flat like
kids
this, but
just
it's
like
not-
that.
It really is to help other people that you've
Wait,
but yeah,
there is
absolutely.
no skill book?
Yeah,
I
we've
don't
been
really
working on
care,
stuff
but
like
like,
that behind the
cool.
scenes a bit.
Must
So
have
if you
been
had to
one.
have like a cause,
Maybe
that
mistake
close to
50k
your
in
heart,
an hour or some shit.
There's a few. I think one, helping kids would be great. I think helping mental health would be great.
Yeah. I remember you had a big thing about
mental health.
Yeah, mental
suicide
health's a
and
big
things.
one, for sure. That would be right up there. I know you're doing some charity stuff. Do you want to talk about you've got 2 charities, haven't you?
Yeah, one's going to come out in about a month, and one's going to come out in probably a couple or 3 years after that. I won't speak about it fully yet because it's not live yet, and I would like to be able to, when I do speak about it, direct people towards, hey, if you want to help, this is what we're going to do.
Give us a
But
little preview.
Sure. So the first one, it's called Thrive, and bear in mind, I make my money off weighing up probabilities, percentages. I'm a very mathematical person. I think that we and the rest of the movement around in the dealing with the homeless sphere have above a 50% chance, maybe like 50 to 60% chance of ending homelessness within the next 5 years. And I mean that with absolute sincerity and severity as well, because everything
Wait.
is slowly being put into place.
I don't know about that
All
one,
the
Chief.
right pieces are there. There just
Mean to
isn't
use
the
that.
right cohesion. So we
I
have
mean,
all of these
if they
different
like
charities doing
care
so
about
many
not
amazing
using it,
things.
it's basically
But I
occupies
feel
a
like
slot,
there are
and
a few pieces
it's like
missing,
20% more
which
attack
we're
value. I
gonna
didn't
be
change
trying
my
to
whatever, man.
fill. And
Let's
then
keep it
there's
away.
also a lack of organization. So what's meant to be happening in the charitable space is the government is meant to be acting as the centralized organizational force, you know, like the head body saying, you do this here, you do this here. But because it's the government,
That's
I love the
interesting.
government, don't get me wrong, it does some
Said
stuff.
no one ever.
I mean, we're sitting in London and nobody's trying to steal your flat, nobody's trying to kill us. The postal service works really well.
To
Thanks.
paraphrase Chris Rock,
Thanks,
you're
government.
supposed to. Yeah.
But the government is very slow, and it's turned itself into a bit of an impotent bureaucratic mess when it's dealing with charities. So what we're going to be doing, as well as the app that we're developing, which I'll speak about for a brief second, we're also going to be collecting a hell of a lot of data and conducting some pretty decent, in my opinion, data analysis, and then coordinating the pre-existing charities and be like, okay, so on
You're
Wednesdays,
collecting
we
data
have a lot
of people that
here,
are
you
gonna
guys
be
good at this, you guys
donors.
are good at this, you can go over here, you can go here.
When
and
I
now we
say
can actually work
donors, it
together
sounds like I'm
as a
fucking talking about
hive
organ
instead
donors.
of just like a
People are gonna
discombobulated
support
movement
your
of 1,000
foundation.
limbs trying to
You're gonna
organise
collect
these
data
hive
of
themselves, where
what
they're
the
actually almost
fuck?
competing against each other
Well,
at this point.
they are competing against each other, and that's what I find a bit worrying about charities.
Wait, can I do it directly? I can. There we go. You need to put the
It's supposed to be a
experience
noble
first.
thing that
That's
people do,
the
but sometimes
trick.
it's very self-driven, isn't it?
I think a lot of the time it is self-driven, but all the people. So I've met a lot of the people high up in the charities at the moment. I've met CEOs of the big charities and some founders and trustees and things like that. And everyone I've met, bar one, has been lovely, like really lovely. And I've asked each of them individually, how much corruption do you think there is within your charity? And they're all just like, oh, not really any. None,
Not really any, especially not the Belita Oscar.
Yeah, but I've looked into it, and I think that there's such a huge distrust from the public to charities, and I know that when people
Yes.
hear me say this, they're like, oh yeah, charity. So first of all, I'd like to say I'm not going to be making a single fucking penny from this, and I refuse to.
I've got a question then. Why
Well,
are you doing
not necessarily
this? So
charities,
that, you know,
but to the concept
obviously
of
it's a good thing.
Yeah. No,
but
it's
why
a good
would
question.
people? I mean, technically,
we all get something
they
out of
don't
something.
give
What do
away.
you feel like
They
you get
can
out
give
of it?
away all the money
So,
they get donated
I
because
think that the way that
the
I see
people that
life,
work there
or a
need
way
to
that
get
I see
paid.
life,
Otherwise, how
is
the
that
fuck would they be able
the idea
to
of being
afford to pay the
selfless
bills?
or
You know,
selfish
obviously
is
it's
completely
sword boost.
antiquated. It's completely outdated, and I think that the best way to be
Wait,
selfish
I need to
is to be completely
get a
selfless. And I think that
spirit strike.
if somebody
One,
could do it
maybe
overnight,
sometime.
suddenly decided to project all of their intention, all of their energy, all of their will, power, determination towards the point of doing as much good in the world as they possibly could, then they will very quickly discover exactly how rich and how beautiful life is meant to be. And
He said
from
the
what I've discovered
exact
from going on
same
this journey
word.
of
He didn't.
starting a
Maybe he
charity
said it
and
in the
helping people
intro,
along
and
the way,
I.
even though it's really at its primary
I don't know.
stages, is that the
But
amount
even this,
of
that previous
good
interview,
feeling
he
that I
said
get from
exact
helping people
same
is better
words.
than any other feeling that
The
I've
exact
ever had.
same
And, you know, falling deep in love,
citation,
I've
I
done
should
so many
say.
things, but the feeling of doing something for somebody that's in a desperate situation, like a person who's homeless on the street. I try not to use homeless person as a label. A person who's homeless on the street, experiencing neglect every day, who hasn't had.
I mean, think
someone
about it,
give
the-
them a hug in maybe 5 years, apart from maybe a mate.
Like, I
or
don't
dealer as well,
understand.
and
The fucking people
has
are.
tens of thousands of
The
people
way to
walking
end
past and looking
homelessness
at
is
them
just
pitifully for
support
what they've done.
businesses
To
that
do even
would
the
like to
smallest
work with them or
tiny
have them
gesture of,
hired to
like,
their
hey,
business
is a Whole Food, like,
to
have
employ,
Whole
to
Foods gift
employ
card or
them, because
something
there
right
is
now,
no
so
other way.
it's
If you give
why do
them
people money,
money,
industry, unless you're very, very good at telling who's a drug addict and who isn't.
oh
the
wait,
amount
he's
of
literally
gratitude you
tackle
get from
this,
that is just insane. From the
the
smallest
fucking
amount.
timing.
And
Holy shit, this is on
from what I
point.
understand about the nature of reality and the nature of how human beings are wired, is that the way
Wait.
to really become happiest is to give. And a lot of the spiritual leaders that
I
are
want
out
to
there
say,
will
like,
say
give a
exactly
man
the
a fish and
same
he's
thing. So
gonna
I'm
eat
kind
for
of
the day, give a
paraphrasing
man a
people
rod,
rather
a
than
fishing
people.
rod, and he's gonna
It's-
eat for
this is
Smart.
the thing. The more
You
I
know,
got to know you, the
entire
more
life.
I. So we
Like, maybe
we
his
started
entire
talking
life is not
recently,
actually
more
that,
often,
like.
because you were helping me at poker, because I actually took up poker during lockdown and loved it.
Love it.
And I'm actually going to be streaming. I'm good trying to promote the show. We're going to be streaming soon.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
so-
sick. We're gonna have so.
Yeah.
I'll turn up for at least one of them, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna. The more I got to know.
And maybe I should get into poker again
it was
instead
like,
of fucking playing.
Holy shit! Like, I really got
I
to
don't even
understand
know
this
if
game
this
and
is-
how complex it
I mean,
is. And, you know, obviously.
maybe
naively
blackjack is
beforehand,
a
I thought,
bit,
well,
I
you
don't
got
know.
cards.
Maybe I shouldn't play
Look,
blackjack
I've
and just
probably
play
got this,
fucking
you've probably
poker.
got that. I didn't realize
Not
the
sure, not
level
sure.
of probability, the level of psychology, that really the depths of this game. You started describing it to me, and got to know you more and more and more, and we started talking more and more, and I was like, shit, this should have been a podcast. But when I watch you play such a vicious game like poker, and it's funny because I'm also getting boxing lessons, and the similarities between the boxing lessons and the poker lessons that you give me are
I mean,
insane. Like,
there's
it's all-
necessarily
it's very
a lot of similarities between
aggressive.
them.
It's-
Just
it's-
your
it's
brain
a
needs
nasty game,
or
and I
wants
love
to
it.
make it like, what can I take from this
You are
whatever
such a
I'm
kind,
doing,
caring, charitable. You know,
and
you're one of the nicest
help
people I've ever
myself
met
or
in my
not
life,
help
right?
myself,
Thank you.
but
You're
better
a
myself,
complete
better the
beast
process of
in
learning
poker. You're
the
a
other
horrible, nasty,
in the other
aggressive
field,
bully,
you know.
in poker. And
we
you know, when
just
you talk about me being the same
make
yin
the
yang type
process
of character,
easier.
I'm like,
That-
well,
that's
so are you.
what your-
you know
what-
what I mean? Like, because you have this
what
like
your brain wants to
switch,
do.
and I've watched you
My
in
fucking
poker
Tourette's
tournaments,
kicked in. I don't
looking
even
at
have
people,
Tourette's. Just fucking
giving them the
dumbass.
look, waiting for them to
Just
make their
being
like,
the fucking
and you're
dumbass, he
putting
can
the
speak
pressure on them, you're
English
going, I got
properly, or
400 grand.
can speak
That's
properly,
it.
I should say, because I don't think he's
I'm
due
gonna
to the
fucking
language.
have more than you've got. It's simple
Just
as, you know what I
telling
mean?
me
And
being
when
a
you,
dumbass.
I'm watching you,
Ooh.
going, dude, you've got nothing. What the fuck?
All
are
right,
you doing?
we
And
almost
you're like really putting the pressure
to
on
103.
people. Then you're also this.
Mm.
It's strange. Like, do you feel that you're a
Uh-huh.
totally different person in poker?
So the more and more I grow as a person, the less I feel compartmentalized. But there definitely still is a distinction. When I'm sitting down and playing poker, I have to be a predator. It's the nature of the game, and I say this to all of my students, some of whom are women. And it's like, you need to find that inner beast inside of you. You need to find that part of you that wants to take that person's money no matter what. You can't be thinking about whether it's his last £50. You can't be thinking whether it's his child's fund to go to college or something like that, which is horrible to think about. So it's kind of morbid, but it is the nature of the game.
But it's like boxing. It's him or you. You know, yeah, it's kill or be killed, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's something that really I did have to juggle with for quite a while, the morality of making money through other people's kind of misfortune or misery. And it's something that I was really unsure whether I was doing good in the world, but luckily I think I'm proving to myself that it was a plus EV.
Or just to throw something out there, and I'm not saying this is true, but or is this whole charity thing a way of alleviating guilt that you've accrued over
Alleviating
the years?
karma? No, I don't hold any guilt for it. Guilt seems to be fleeting for me. I feel it, I deal with it, and I forgive myself if I feel like I've done something bad. But with poker, I actually don't feel like I've done anything bad, and I could be wrong.
No, it is. It's like getting in the ring, though. Once you lace those gloves up, once you sit at that poker table, you know what you're signing up for.
Yeah, it's a bit different with how it integrates with addiction, though, because not too many people are addicted to boxing, as far as I'm
I
aware.
definitely disagree with
All
you.
right, I'm wrong on that one.
No. I think there are many people
What?
who have no place.
Yeah,
in
dude,
boxing,
you know,
but have
like
this ridiculous
I'm
dream,
addicted
like,
to
I land that one punch, and then I'm gonna get a world
watching
title
porn,
fight at some
nah.
point, and they've got
playing
the
football,
exact
nah.
same bullshit,
Playing basketball, some shit
delusional
like that.
shit that people tell themselves
Get out,
when
man.
they're
Get
either
out.
addicted to whatever. You know,
You can be
anything
addicted
you can
with
be
drinking water.
You get the same
In
personality
the next 5 years, I'm
in-
pretty sure people are gonna
people
find
eating bloody addicted to
some way
McDonald's,
to
man. They think
introduce that
they're not
addiction.
gonna-
It's
you
not
know what I mean?
addiction, dog.
So,
It's just
Yeah, I think there
maybe
are.
being
It's
passionate
very
about
similar
something.
fighting, actually, and it's
definite
what is very
addiction.
strange is when I'm
Definitely not
getting-
addiction.
I get a boxing lesson off a very high level guy. Obviously, you're a world champion in your field, and the instructions are weirdly similar. It's basically make the other guy think you're going to do something else, and that is poker. That is fighting. It's fascinating how similarly you're trained.
Yeah, it's,
You're
it's,
basically-
it's crazy.
yeah,
So in
it's
the poker
it's-
world,
it's-
there are two
it's out of
different
psychology.
schools, although it's obviously not always this.
The
binary.
higher
There's kind of like the
hierarchy of
mathematical game theory
being
from
good at
where
whatever
you use
sport.
Artificial intelligence, not in game, but
Because
after the game, before
exactly,
games, try
imagine
and
like
dictate how they might play in different
how
situations
maybe
and
chess
apply
is
that
being
knowledge.
played.
And then there's the type that I teach.
How
which
any
is
sport is being
learning
played.
how
You
to
can
cultivate
you can beat
intuition
somebody that's
with the fundamental
has
basis of
better physical
rationality,
ability than you
learning
do.
how to structure a
Is
thought
better at the
process so you
game.
can
Like
be
he has
always on
played
one
it
level
for
above
more
the other person, because
years.
that's exactly
He
what
has
you want.
better
Can't be
mechanics.
2 levels
He
above,
knows more
because
information
if
about
you're
the
2 levels
game.
above, then
He
somebody
has
he's
better
gonna make the
knowledge.
right decision against you. So you have to be
It,
one level above
it
them,
all
and I assume it's 3
doesn't
levels
matter
above.
in the end if you beat
Yeah,
him,
but
or does it?
you-
Depends how you look at
Right,
it.
okay.
You just think you're one level above, probably. I'm sure that happens because sometimes
You can
when
abuse
you're
maybe one of his
thinking really,
weaknesses and
like deep thought about how to play a
beat him
hand,
easily,
like,
or not
he
easily
probably
necessarily,
thinks
but
I'm
just
thinking
win
that he's
against
just
him.
like,
That's the
right,
main
do so,
point
and
of
the
what
guy's
I'm
just
trying to
like, "How do you
say.
spell poker?" and just like whatever, you know.
And that doesn't
probably
really.
does happen.
It shouldn't make you a
it
better
blew,
player.
When I talked to you, it blew my mind when you sat me down.
But,
and went, all right,
you know,
what you play will
if you
vary
look at it
depending
at
on
the
where
end
you are on
result
the
of
table. Like,
everything,
you got to be thinking completely differently depending
It's
on
just you
what chair you're
won,
in
he
there.
lost.
What was your last? big
Even
win?
if you
Just out of interest.
shouldn't
So
be
live,
winning,
it
in your
was
opinion,
a
or
Triton event
or
in
whatever.
London for 1.3 million pounds.
When?
Got him. It's like
I
a
don't
year
know.
ago.
I don't know.
but
I don't know where I
hadn't
wanted to
played
go with it.
for a year before that, and I haven't played live.
The ADHD is sitting hard, but maybe
then I
somebody
just played
can
the online series,
relate to it.
And I had 4 6-figure
One of
scores
those 4 guys
in,
watching.
in a month or so. So
Like, you do seem to turn up, win, and leave.
fuck off.
Yeah, and be like, I've got enough cash for another year. I'll see you
It's
later.
actually funny though. There will be a few poker players watching this who will be quite derisive at the thought of me being one of the best poker players in the world, because the way that I play poker is so different to the way that almost every other high-stakes professional poker player plays poker.
Can you explain how?
So they would argue that to play at the highest levels, you need to be studying the solvers, which is the artificial intelligence. They would say you need to study game theory, and then only can you deviate from that when you have enough information to deviate from it.
Why would you? Okay, how could you do that? How could you deviate from information?
So, for instance, if the solver is saying with this hand in this position, you have to be calling their bet about 33% of the time.
So just to be clear to anyone at home, the solver is basically the thing that tells you what the right thing
Yeah.
to do, or the best thing to
the,
do.
the game
The,
theory.
I mean,
It is so funny because
it's like
once again going back to
it's
my
an
boxing
algorithm that
my boxing
makes
coach says,
a place
in order to break the rules, you
either
have to know
game
the
theory
rules.
or
And that feels like
I don't
kind
know.
of
It
what you're
gives you
getting at here is
a
you have to
combination
know
between
a
game
lot
theory and
before you can start
what
deviating at that
That-
point.
that-
you would
that's
do.
what
I'm not
people
sure
say, actually,
in
and
poker
so
how you integrate that.
in my opinion, is
I'm not a
actually bit
very
of
big
a
poker player,
mishap of the
I'm not
brain. I
really
think
interested in
there's a
saying that
mass
I'm be good
delusion
at poker,
happening across the whole
or that I
poker
even
community,
play poker. I just
where in
I'm not
their
that into
minds
poker.
it would be
I was into
almost
poker like
impossible for somebody
1
like me
year ago,
to
maybe
be
less, maybe a
profitable
bit
in
more,
high stakes.
but around that
So
time.
when I do turn up and win pretty much all the time at the moment, which I'm sure is a lot of luck involved, but I do feel like I'm outplaying people in a lot of different situations. They would say it's just luck. They would say, oh, there's no chance because he hasn't studied this, he hasn't learnt this. But the way that I teach poker, and I think is more important, is to really fine-tune intuition. And this involves meditation.
Oh my god, now we're no. That's a big cap. That's a big ass cap.
and it would be
Nah,
meditation,
cut it,
nutrition.
cut it.
It would be different
Put it
ways
on a
of
counting
thinking,
board,
different ways
cut it,
of
counting board
learning
maybe.
about yourself, so then you can tap
Uh-huh.
into that intuition, that little spark of creativity.
H4,
that
H4.
each one of us has. And anybody, not just a poker player, anybody who's a fighter or anybody who's a gamer knows what it feels like to be on the A game. You're not in the same league
Yes.
anymore. You know,
Me.
you might be against someone else, and you're like playing the other person like they're a fucking instrument. You know, you're just in tune with something, and it doesn't feel like you're you anymore. You're just flowing. You're part of the experience.
It's called workflow, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the flow in general. And that's not applied to random odds in winning a game. It's just, even if you are in a flow state, it doesn't matter if you can still lose. It just doesn't matter. Just because you are lucky enough to win, and that happens enough times to you for you to not consider it a probability, it's very misleading. As you might think, yeah, I did this so well, or maybe you didn't, because I mean, at the end of the day, whatever your opinion is about playing poker or not playing poker, it's just that all of it boils down to odds stacking or stacking on each other. And some people don't really give that many fucks about it, therefore you can do it or you can win against them. That's why I wanted to take. Wait 1 second. I want to resume the podcast right now.
If you watch someone like Conor McGregor when he's fighting, I really see somebody who's in flow state. So what I try and teach people is learn poker, learn the rationality behind it, learn the theory, learn the mathematics, learn the psychology. Definitely a huge part of my game
like
is psychology.
workflow, it doesn't.
Like that, which most of the poker community do not pay
I mean,
attention to.
maybe you
But
when you
really
read somebody that
focus
if you are
on
in flow, you
what it
can
feels
tell
like
whatever
to
he's
be
gonna
in
do
flow state,
next
to
if
be on
it's
your A
not
game,
connected
and
or
then
if it's
focus on
not
how to
focused
maintain
insanely.
Because
heavily
if you
on the
can
game.
be the person who, when they're playing or
But
when
other
they're
than
fighting
that,
or when they're competing in esports, for
I don't know.
instance, is always on their A game, and you know other people are, you know, they're getting emotional. Somebody sent them a text, they're in a bad mood and they're tilting, or you know they
What?
didn't get enough sleep, or they're literally made out of McDonald's. Then it's going to be pretty hard for them to be competing with somebody who's made out of green tea and apples
Yeah.
and stuff, and then really aligned with
I
themselves.
totally resonate with that as just as a creator, even in everything that I'm trying to do in my life at the minute, learning so
Alright.
many different things. Like when people bring bad energy into your life, you're like, fucking get out with that.
Well-
You know what I mean? But you earlier we talked about law of attraction. And it's funny because, like you say, you used to be a skeptic, used to be a very rational guy, and now you're talking. And I see.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
you
He's
where you
like
said sometimes
180
when you're
degrees.
playing someone
I
online,
hope nothing in
Google
life
them.
is gonna make me
get a picture of
change.
them up and
I mean,
look at the picture. Try
I'm-
and feel.
I
you know,
feel
what potentially that person might do.
like the
Like,
flow
that to
state
me, I was
is
like, I mean,
pretty
that might be
rational.
bullshit,
It's
but
just you,
well, if it's
you can
helping,
pay attention to
wow,
more
like,
details you
what
could
do
in
you-
a
what kind of
conscious
feelings are
manner.
you get
That's
when you're doing
what
stuff
I
like that?
think it really
One
does
thing I
to
would
you, or
mention
it
is
does
that-
to
so
me
I've
when
been
I'm
very
getting in
fortunate
it.
to have enough
It's
money and
just
free time to travel the
sometimes
world.
it's very hard to
Met
get into
people
that
from all
flow
corners of the
state
world.
for
I've
some
met
reason.
shamans who come from Brazil. I've met Native American people. I've met metaphysicists. I've met people that have spent loads of time in working in the Amazon rainforest, and they all have their own and Buddhists and Hindus and Taoists and things like that, and they all have their own branches of spiritualism. They all have their own branches of understanding themselves and understanding the world. But there are a few things.
So
that
it
seem
doesn't
crop
need to
up
be the region.
everywhere you look independently.
It doesn't even need to be the
And
region.
for
It's
me,
just
that is a good indicator of
you
where I
need to
should
be
look next to try and find truth.
fulfilled
And because if
in
it's
many
not here,
segments
here, and they're not
of
communicating,
whatever you
then
consider
there's a
important.
chance. Either they're all deluded
That's-
or they're all right. So one of the things that comes up
What it boils down to.
consistently
I don't even know.
is the ability
That's just
to
what it boils down
read
to,
people,
in my opinion.
but in such an intense and deep way
Wait,
that
into
it seems to be
reapply
breaking the laws of
these.
physics, but it's like fine-tuning intuition. So one thing people could do at home, just to illustrate this, is there's a thing if you Google search before and after photos of people that have been to war. I don't know if you've seen it. And before they go, they're just babies, they're young kids, and it'll be like
I
a
mean,
few years in between, and they like
That's mainly because you go to. I mean, when people used to be enrolled, the army would enroll very young people and to make a selection out of it. It's so easy to select only the fucking 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. that are basically babies. You look like a baby yourself if you look at you can see him, but like in the last video, this one looks more mature, but like the last video that was 2 years ago, you look like a fucking child. I look like a fucking child in my opinion, but it's not even close to that. When you go towards just, you're so, I don't know, you realize that life is more than just making money and just doing anything. You realize that there is so little purpose, because you're all killing yourselves at the end. And you're gonna die one way or another, and the way there's people in war die, or how they see their whatever mates die on the front, makes them look different, or not them look different, but like have better, different perspectives on life. I'm not even sure where the fuck I'm going with this. Yeah.
Hardens, they look deafened in their eyes, and the transformation isn't just in their expression, but it's their literal features. Their jaw becomes more protruded. They've become men, you know. And I really do deeply believe, and I went kicking and screaming into believing this, but I now do deeply believe that our faces paint a portrait of who we are.
Mate, I fully agree. I say this because one of the most horrible cunts I've ever met in my life, she was a pretty woman when she was in her, like, you know, 20s, early 30s. But I knew her heart was as black as you could get, you know what I mean? A horrible, horrible cunt. And
Do you still know this person?
yeah, I've
Shout them at
it's one of those things where you drive past it.
Right.
Remember that
Hey,
person
you.
I told about?
The horrible person I've met 5 years ago.
And that face
You're a fucking
now
cunt.
is one of just misery. You know what I mean? Self-inflicted misery. Just a horrible person.
And I feel sorry for those
Yeah.
people, and not in like a, you know,
Judgmental way.
yeah, exactly. It's just a bit like, oh,
But it is sad. But often what I am saying here is it's brought on potentially by themselves, by how hate-filled they are personally sometimes. So my experience with that is that yes, that is a thing. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can walk past a person in the street, and you just get a vibe, just by the face. And I'm not talking about a hot girl. I'm talking about like someone who you can just tell is a good person. You just feel it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and that's exactly it. And the more intuitive somebody is, and obviously intuition could be 100 different things, but in general, the more intuitive someone is, the deeper you can go with that. And the depths are so much deeper than I thought could be possible. It's uncanny how much detail you can get about someone's past and someone's present and even someone's future sometimes, when you can look deeply into their eyes and their face and really attune yourself to be that kind of antenna for people. So yeah, I do that.
By the way, we hear stories like this all the time in regards to like, I don't know, let's say a woman gets a bad vibe from a taxi driver or whatever, and it turned out he was a fucking, you know, there's things like this happening a lot in just regular society where they go, oh, I got a really bad vibe. It's not witchcraft. We're talking about, yeah. Like,
I don't even know.
I don't know. I get why people would be skeptical of it, but I think
Oh,
like,
me too, man.
yeah, we can't say Wi-Fi, but it is all around us, and we're all giving off things. Do you
I'm
know?
also
Pretty sure
unsure
somebody
whether
smart
it's
enough could
even,
explain why there is, but like,
magic or sort of,
I'm not
you know,
smart
that
enough,
kind
but
of thing.
knowledgeful
People might paint it
enough.
out that way.
Yeah,
Having,
like you say,
I don't know,
intuition. I think
studies.
the problem is a lot of people have attached like
Knowing
sort of
studies
magical
of-
values.
I don't
to
even
a lot
know,
of these
man.
things,
I'm
which
pretty
then
sure
make them
that's
almost unknowable,
very-
and then
that's
most people sort of
indeed very
go,
explainable.
Oh, well, surely I can't
I'm
do that. Or you become
I'm
quite dismissive of it.
150%
That
sure
was
you
such an
can
articulate point.
have a
Yeah, that's
very
so true.
concise reason when that happens.
He does
You've
this
seen
a
the
lot.
podcast
He's
before?
so good at this.
We keep him around for this reason.
Yeah.
I know.
But what I mean by that is then, I have probably been on a very similar journey, maybe not as intense as you, because I've, you've travelled the world. But
Slight dig from last night.
No,
we
like-
should travel more.
I'm envious of that experience. I think it's a great experience. But I think I was much more atheist, or much more along those lines, when we first spoke, and have become much less militant about it in that sense, but also understood more of why people think that way. And I think a lot more people are thinking that way, and it's almost
I mean, I'm gonna tell you why you're not that atheist anymore. You realize you saw more of life, you met more people. That's one reason, indeed. And the main reason is just you're getting older. Do you realize there is one day I'm gonna pass out, I'm gonna die. That, I don't know. What have I accomplished in life? Even if I accomplished anything in this life, does it even matter? Is it even relevant? At the end of the day, I'm just dusting. I'm gonna become one of the ground. It's crazy to think that your entire life you might be grinding for something, to have people not trust you, but like for affirmation maybe, whatever you fight for, and then one day it's all gonna be over. It's not gonna matter. Whatever you accomplished or didn't accomplish, it's just gone. And you think about it, like there must be something more than this. There must be. And then you settle to spiritualism. Because there must be, you say it yourself, right? There must be, there is 150% sure, I'm 150% sure that there is more to life than just making money, spending money, being financially stable or not being financially stable. There must be something in life. I don't know what it is. I've been fortunate enough. You could be in the position that you say, I've been fortunate enough to make enough money to not have any issues, or make more than enough money, have more than enough money. Just want to help people now because I think that's the right thing to do. Maybe you're the guy that doesn't want to pay people and wants to stack as much paper as he wants for the rest of his life for some dumb reason. Because at the end of the day, whatever materially things you can get, I don't know, get a $100 million house, make yourself worth $1 billion. At the end of the day, if you can live in the illusion of being insanely important, or not in the illusion, or maybe just you're insanely important, you live in that lifestyle, you live it your entire life, and you never, you not necessarily never, but you don't really pay attention to like what else? Is there more to it than just this? Maybe you don't think about it, right? Maybe you just don't think about it. I don't know. Or you think about it and you don't really pay attention to it. It's just another dumb thought I got when I was sitting on the fucking toilet or some shit like that. You're not paying attention to it. Or you consider it yourself as going way too deep and I should get out of here and make some more money. So what I'm trying to get is to is just you do whatever you do, you are 1 week, maybe 1 month before you're gonna most likely die, you feel like you're gonna die, you don't have any more power and you just you feel you're gonna pass. Crazy. And you know that, and it turns out to be actually right for it and it's so fucking deep. I'm getting anxious about it. God damn. Alright, so let's read more in the chat. Okay, 2 comments only. Okay, this is very nice. Da, ero Carpathians. Ne, puși așa inventarul. I know, just imagine being into somebody, I don't know, being into that position. Not to say being in somebody else's position, to have all the money in the world, to have anything you want, be fulfilled on anything, on any side of life you want, or I can't even speak words, just, and then, I don't know, it all ends in a couple of months. It all ends like it all started out of nowhere. Sheesh, man. I don't know. don't you consider that being important? Just you don't consider it being important, right? But like at the end of the day, you're dead, and you're gonna realize that there is nothing you can do about it. There is nothing you can do. You're a very rational person, right? So you're like, I'm gonna find the solution to this problem. And you're not gonna find the solution to the problem. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy, because you can't find a solution on that problem. You just spend your life. You might have no regrets, but you're just curious or what's next. What the fuck happens now? I'm not. Alright, I die. Whatever. There have been people like me that died for decades on decades, for fucking millions of years. Why am I special? Yeah, I'm special. Wow. Whatever, man. They should just change the fucking
especially with Black
podcast.
Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff that's going on at the moment. People are unpicking the fabric of what's going on right now and kind of going, oh, so it is a bit easier than I thought, or discovering more essential truths.
Yeah, back to
for some
the
reason
law
I
of
speak
attraction,
this kind of
in
subjects.
regards to playing
My
poker,
brain
but
doesn't
also
really
just generally
play or
seeking
doesn't
Can I just ask
really
one
work
question about law of
properly.
attraction? Are we talking about the book here, or are we talking about
getting
something
really
else?
confused.
Because I just want to know.
I'm using a
confused.
general phrase to explain.
Right, okay.
Can-
So
you know,
not the secret then, not this.
Make
the
proper
secret, but I think
sentences.
generally, from what I
Express my
understand
own
from Charlie's,
thoughts.
some of Charlie's other videos I've watched, you have a belief that you can increase the probability of you getting what you want from a scenario, such as poker, by doing certain things. I seen you do something sort of a mantra or something.
It's actually something in physics. I'm not sure what it is, but if you wish hard enough for something to become true, for let's say like a red beam for it to become white, or not white, for it to become yellow. If you wish hard enough, it might even happen. I'm not sure. I don't think it's the power of will, but it's like, I don't know. There have been researches about it. I'm not sure how it works. Something strange, and I don't think it would be God. Something else. Let's say there is a divinity, and that there is whatever power people have in themselves for it to change the reality, to bend reality. Wow.
Something on a video. Do you?
I really need to read that
Can you explain that a
article.
bit further?
Sure. So
Be
I
more knowledgeable.
prefer usually not to go super in depth about my metaphysical beliefs without a lot of context of people that know me, because I know that there are so many. Hi, people. So many people out there who, when they hear these words like law of attraction, their instant reaction, no matter what you say around it, will just be like, no. So I try not to throw people in the deep end for it. But the mantra that I use for people, and I say, even if you don't believe in the metaphysical underpinning of poker or the universe, you have to at least believe in psychology and the psychological benefits of positive thinking. And the mantra is, you can tailor it in whatever way you want, for whatever situation. I actually did it one specifically before I came here, because I was feeling actually kind of nervous for the first time out of all three, by the way. The mantra I use is, I am lucky. And then you take some time, you're doing a bit of breathing beforehand, and you try and feel what it feels like to be lucky. You know, you feel what it feels like to win that 50-50 in poker, or to, you know, win a tournament, and you see people around you be like, oh man, he's so lucky. You know, you really, you embody it. And then you say, I am skillful, and you feel what it feels like to be skillful. You're like, you're on the level above, you figure that out. And, you know, if you're a chess player, you might be like, oh, calculating all these 10 different moves ahead. And you really feel what it feels like when you're in your most skillful mindset. And then you say, and I will win. And you have to mean it with absolute sincerity, because if you come at a game of poker not aiming for first place, then you might as well leave.
just before everyone shits on this in the comments, just remind me, how much money have you won in poker?
Ah, man, I'm not sure, but it's probably close to about $8 million or something.
Is that all?
There you go. So before everyone shits on that, $8 million. Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, whatever you're, because Conor McGregor and a lot of other popular winners in their sports have mentioned this sort of thinking before of positive reinforcement and stuff like that. And I think people, me included, even just
It's I don't know. I don't think it's it's affecting your brain more than anything else. In my opinion, it's just you are seeing the objective and don't care about anything else but the objective. And if you're positive about it, if you think you can do it, then if you have the opportunity to do it, you're gonna do it. Meanwhile, somebody else that doesn't see it or doesn't feel like he can do it, when he's being given the opportunity to actually fulfill the mission that he so desperately wants, he's not gonna be able to do it because he's not in the right mental space. He's gonna choke, basically, in one way or another. Kind of crazy.
hearing that, I think, what scenario would I do that? But you know, if you're a winner and you're on the level that you're on and it's working for you, whatever the rationale behind it, there's reason to do it then, isn't there?
Yeah. I really think that the biggest life leak that most people have is not meditating. And it sounds like one of those hippie things to a lot of people. It's like, well, why'd you do that? You sit in a circle singing Kumbaya and holding hands and beating drums. But it's not that. It's learning how to be a human. You know, it's learning how to breathe. We haven't been taught how to breathe properly in school. They've taught us algebra, they've taught us Pythagoras' theorem, but they haven't taught us how to breathe or how to stretch or how to just be ourselves and how to love ourselves and things like that. And I always say to poker players, like, you can spend as much time as you want trying to battle through learning all this theory, learning all the exact percentages, and so many people have so much knowledge about the game, but no results, because when it comes to it, they pussy out. Or when it comes to it, you know, they can't make that big bluff and they try and play a bit scared. And meditation, it helps you in every aspect.
It's not about meditation, it's just you don't either smoke some pot and you don't give a fuck anymore. That's not what it is about. Just be focused and be calm. If you somehow manage, it doesn't matter the way you achieve it. What you wanna do, I'm pretty sure, is be as objective as you can. Don't give a fuck about anything else. Just see whatever the better play is. You do it, no matter what the else result might be. You know, you just play for the win. Basically, it's just like we play in chess. You get the black pieces. You're like, I'm 0.5 points down. It's the last game. What am I supposed to do? You know, just play for the win. You know, kind of obvious.
Aspect of your life. It can make you more confident. It can allow you to energize yourself. It can allow you to center yourself. Like before I came here, I was really nervous for some reason. I didn't dig deep into why it was. I'm sure
we're kind of a big deal these days.
I feel it might be that, you know. It might be the fact that there's gonna be so many people listening to everything that I say, and if you fuck up, then it's like, wow, it's just a lot of people heard me fuck up. But I meditated in the car. Hannah handed me some lavender that she picked from our beautiful garden. Thank you, Hannah. And I listened to an app called Synctuition. I'm not associated with them at all, but I really like it as a meditation app. And I went from being really nervous to being really calm and centered. And I feel like if I hadn't meditated beforehand, I could have definitely come here and just been really on edge, you know, and just try to push through it instead of just feeling like I'm going to be myself. And maybe I will go off the rails at some point, but meditation, it used to be something that I'd say that I didn't need it because I didn't think of myself as a stressed person, but it's something that I think is just intrinsic to human being.
Praying is basically the same thing. It's just, I don't know. To be honest, I should give Chinese people or people from Asia a big up on how they present praying, because it's the same fucking thing. And the connection with divinity, people in the West are feeling that or can relate to it much better than just praying for something to happen. It feels more like I'm not waiting for somebody to be giving me things. I'm just, you know, trying to distress myself, to release some of the negative energy I have on my head for some reason.
Things in general, and I
Or
think
my
if people
mind.
aren't meditating, that they're missing out on so much.
Just to be
You meditate lots, don't you?
yeah, quite a lot.
I-
and
I
obviously,
can't
since I've had a
believe
baby, I try and you can't get into it.
I mean, I can't even imagine.
I'll get you into it, brother.
When you talk
Yeah.
about stressed people, you're looking at them.
You look, you better start believing in stress.
Like, my whole life is everything I do is intense. I do every single piece of my life in an intense way. There's nothing I do half-assed. So to switch off, it's like what? Like
do you want to switch off maybe for like an hour a day?
so there are some things I do, which I use to try and help me switch off. One of them, which is quite wholesome, that ASMR thing before bed, where the girls whisper and that. You don't know if you've seen that.
I didn't know the girls whisper. I thought ASMR was like people eating and stuff.
No. So like
That's
there's,
one
there's
strand of it,
So you know, like
potentially.
guided meditation where they do the hi everyone.
That's such a good impression.
So like ASMR is like that, but they're not necessarily doing meditation. It's just very relaxing sort of. The idea is you're not there and you think about something else. But that whole point of my brain is I'm such a stress head that I'm still then doing something in order to.
That's interesting,
I'm
though,
not
because
doing nothing.
That's so interesting, though, because you're talking about switching off, whereas I see meditation as like becoming more present.
Well, there's two different forms of meditation
Yeah.
from what I understand, which is one is emptying your mind, and then the other one is filling it up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so meditation has been kind of bastardized by the West, although it has become its own useful thing in my opinion. And that's the kind of meditation that I feel comfortable teaching because, you know, I've had a lot of teachers and I've had a lot of experience.
How are
Then
you
if you look
teaching
east,
something
you'll
you
find
just got
meditation is
into?
more like-
Oh no.
It's not empty your mind, but it's not to
Maybe
bring your
preaching.
focus onto the thoughts.
Maybe preaching,
It's to let
I don't
them
know.
flow through you and to allow your focus to expand and to become more than just who your body is and who your mind is. And there's so many different strands of it that I'm probably just going to hash it up from just saying it. But if people are more, if they feel more resonate towards that, somebody I love online is Sadhguru, Sadhguru.
What an unfortunate name.
Yeah,
but
it's
also,
more
yeah.
like a happy guru.
Yeah,
though, so
yeah,
it's-
exactly. That's kind of weird.
ironic
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is extraordinarily good at teaching these kind of things. But where it's the kind of meditation that I would teach for poker, at least, because I'm not an expert in the others, I'm not an expert in either, but the one that I feel comfortable teaching is using meditation as a tool to become more present, to pay more attention to what you're doing, to pay more attention to yourself and the outside world, but also to use different techniques to energize you or to de-stress you. And it can take like 5 minutes to do this before a poker game. You know, just really make sure that when you get bad beat or someone bluffs you and shows their hand, you're not the person flipping the table. Because if you are that person, you're not going to be playing the next hand very well, unless you're a very particular kind of special monster. So meditation, it should be, I think it should be taught in schools. I think it's kind of horrendous that it's not.
You've been smoking too much. Dude. It's like, you must be Christian. You must be. There must be that. I don't know, for some reason, baby. The Bible must be there, man. Get out, dude. You must be taught in school. The only thing they should teach in school that they aren't, in my opinion, the only thing I can think of is just economy, budgeting at the very least. Some sort of economy, and like real economy, not just fucking bullshit. I don't know. People are in debt of fucking 2 years of college, or maybe 1 year or 2 years of college, and maybe some people would not want to go that route, and they are not gonna go that route. Or maybe more people are not gonna go that route if they learn economy in school, and therefore they're not gonna teach it properly. They're not gonna wanna teach the students, or maybe not students, but the children. I think you were a student once you were in college, so I don't know. So yeah, maybe some people don't want that. Don't want to be in debt 50 to 100k for doing college when they're not even gonna use that degree to I don't know, to any amount in some cases. It's just gonna have a degree that they're never gonna get anything out of. and that's it. They literally have a degree that they're not gonna just shit for. They're 100k in debt. They're gonna work a fucking different job that doesn't have anything to do with the kind of college degree they have. There we go. Besides the fact that you wasted 100 grand while you're so young, you wasted 4 years as well. Crazy, crazy, crazy. The time is like, the time when you're young, in most cases, is the biggest resource you have. You have time. And then when you get older, you should in fact have more money than time. And you want to buy time with money. You know?
I'll get you into it, brother. I had the same thing when I first started, where I was like, I can't empty my mind. I was addicted to thinking. I still struggle a lot of the time. But you can have meditation where you just play holosync in the background, a type of like, you know, binaural beats kind of thing, and just allow your brain to go wherever it goes, but just relax your body, you know, and see where it goes. And that's where I came up with the idea for my charity, and that's where I came up with a lot of different ideas for in life as well. I just see where meditation will take me, because it's a different flavor of thinking, and I think you'd love that kind.
Yeah, I've got a to-do list of like everything I've got to do in a week or whatever, like all these, email this company, check on this deal, like do like this video, that issue, and I guess whenever I do get free time, I just find myself working my way through this list.
Yeah, dude, I'm the same. I play chess all day instead of doing what I should be doing. So
10 minutes in a day though isn't really that long.
It isn't, no. And you were seeing a spiritual guide called Kathy, is it? Are you still seeing that?
Yeah, dude, she's changed my life. She's changed Hannah's life. She's changed so many of the people around me's life. You should have a one-on-one session with her. She was one of the first introductions I had to people that did things that I thought were impossible. I thought were against the laws of physics, and I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say about me? How do you know that about me? There is literally...
You should see David Blaine. You should see David Blaine. Nothing else, just see David Blaine. He's gonna tell you things about yourself easily, just for a little trick. And that's it. Imagine somebody that's gonna make a living for themselves of fucking guessing things of it's just making an assumption based on how you present yourself. I'm just gonna guess. It might not be true, but if it is, then it is, you know. God damn. You're gonna get fucked and I'm gonna... It's like going to the witch and I don't know, some witchcraft shit. Or going to the witch, that sounds so fucking stupid. Well, how the fuck are they called? Let me Google it, because I don't want to speak bullshit. The clairvoyant, there you go. She's guessing one thing that's gonna happen to you in 1 month, and then you go back and then you spend a lot of fucking cash for no reason, because you think she knows the future and she doesn't. She just doesn't, like. Clairvoyant, there we go, I forgot it. Wait, where is it?
Nobody on this planet apart from myself and maybe Hannah that knows this about me, and turns out a lot of people can do this thing across the world. Maybe I don't know how many people.
What thing is this?
Looking at somebody and intuitively gauging very, very specific details about them, and Kathy does it in a way that she only does it when you consent, but it's so specific. Like, for instance,
yeah, only when you consent, of course.
I started playing chess. You know, I hadn't told anyone I was starting to play chess, but it was actually kind of stressed me out. And she was like, I feel like there's something you're playing right now that it's not poker. There's another game that you're playing, and it's not doing good things for you. I was like, how the hell did you know that? I mean, at this point, I already knew how she knew that. But that's just one example of thousands and thousands of different examples. And I've been skeptical. I've asked questions like how, you know, I've tested her on different things, and she's held up And she has changed the life of me and as I said, so many people around me. So I actually made a masterclass with her. And she also does one-on-one sessions if people are interested, called Kathy Crosswell, and she's I'm a very
I don't know, sounds like bullshit.
the most
It
honest
is bullshit,
possible
doesn't sound like
person.
bullshit, my
She
bad.
would never consciously lie. I've never seen her subconsciously lie, and she's just such a pure-hearted person that only wants to do good in the world. So yeah, shout out to Kathy, man. She's
Goddamn right.
special. You should definitely, guys, if you're interested.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I'll throw in a.
I've
Bull
been to stuff
crap.
like that before. Actually, it's quite
Yeah.
it's quite
You're very open
Just
minded.
a youngster thing.
yeah,
15
divorced
knows
parents will
all.
do that to you.
That's
I
me.
feel that.
Yeah, and you get that kind of, you know,
Oh,
you got
there
one
we go.
parent that's one thing, very extreme, one
Yeah.
parent the other, and it's I think it's healthy to be skeptical, but it gets to a point where it becomes unhealthy to just cast things aside.
Honestly, I think
I
skepticism.
mean, I'm not am I casting things aside here? I think I am. Just don't care. It's not right.
is a lost art in the modern world. I think that people are so good at being paranoid. You know, like, oh, there's no way that could be true. I haven't seen any scientific evidence. I haven't seen a person in a lab tell me that's true. And then they'll start worshipping science like it's the new religion, like scientists aren't humans, or like they can't lie, or like, you know, there aren't huge flaws in the processes and methodologies.
They haven't been wrong at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we've changed what we believe in so
It's about
consistently throughout
fucking-
all of the time that humans have been alive. And
People needing to prove shit for me. You know? They don't need to prove anything. I mean, they do. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. They do need to prove whatever they are preaching is true.
but people still seem to think just because a scientist has fed them information, well, that's what I believe. Like, if I was getting a surgery, I'd, you know, if someone else getting surgery, I'd be like, go to a modern scientist. If I was looking for antibiotics, go to a scientist. But when I'm looking to ask people how a human body works, in a lot of ways, you know, we haven't figured it out yet. We haven't figured out nutrition. We haven't figured out spirituality. We haven't figured out meditation. So why would I look to science to tell me something they admit?
Wait, you haven't figured out that? What? Wait, then learn back.
In a lot of ways,
Oh, that's a fucking
you know, we
gold
haven't
mine.
figured it out yet. We haven't figured out nutrition. We haven't figured out spirituality. We haven't figured out meditation. So why would I look to science to tell me something they admit that they don't know?
Here's the sad thing. He's going to go to a scientist now and say, I need a surgery. And the scientist will go, heard you slagging us off on the podcast. Can't help you.
Get fucked, son.
Yeah. That's sad.
You know, going back to poker, would you consider yourself one of the outcasts of poker a little bit? Did the community accept you, or are you a little bit on the outsides?
I'd say that more than most, I have a polarity of opinion towards me. So I do have a lot of people that will reach out to me on a daily basis, different people saying, oh, dude, I've been watching your videos and I'm hearing what you're saying. They'll share the most personal and beautiful things about themselves. They'll share their successes because they know that when I'm reading that message, like, I'll tear up sometimes of how good someone's life has got because of something that I've said or because of the poker advice that I've given. And I think that some people at least, appreciate the vulnerability that I put out there. But I've had multiple times where I've just randomly gone on like a Twitch poker stream and the person's speaking about me. I've never met them before, don't know who they are. And they're just like, that Charlie Carroll dude, oh, who does he think he is? And so I've had a lot of hate in the poker world, but yeah, it used to bother me, but now it's
I think whenever you speak your mind in any group of people, it just seems to come. Like, the minute you have that self-confidence or that, you know, that self-worth to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
I think it does make other people fearful of, like, I've had that a bit when you're that guy who will just let it all out, sort of thing. That people can be frustrated that they don't have that strength to do that, and I think it makes them not like you for that.
No, 100%. And sometimes we're just going to say stupid stuff, but I do think that people like that, like you are so important to the maintenance of a civil society, because when stuff starts to go awry, when this, you know, mass movements of specific political strands start going mental, you know, like they did in Nazi Germany or like they did in Russia in Stalin's times, you need people to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to be swayed by...
You're actually making the... You're getting your mind changed. I mean... What? He's literally getting manipulated by a fucking clairvoyance preaching that you can read somebody's mind by the way he fucking dresses. Come on, cuz, relax. You're not even consistent in your arguments. Nah, it's a cap, it's a cap. A big cap. Holy shit, a big ass cap, in fact, now that I think of it. So stupid. So fucking stupid. And there we go, Enchanted Blade, making cash.
Media. I'm not gonna stop being me. I'm not gonna not say what I think, because so many people are just gonna scuttle into the shadows and be like, well, I hope they don't come after me. And I think that even if you're gonna get stuff wrong, which you will, people like you are so important to just stand there and be like, no, this is what I think. And I think that, you know, the YouTube and podcast world is beautiful for that. You know, people like you and Joe Rogan, and it's just, it's so amazing that you can reach so many people at once. You know, like there are hundreds of thousands of people listening to you every single time you speak, and every ripple of positive energy or every piece of advice that you speak into this microphone, it's separating out into hundreds of thousands of minds.
Mate, you're blowing my fucking mind right now.
Isn't it? And you
Brian's
can
never
choose
gonna do
whatever you
another
want to say
podcast.
to these people, you know? You could say whatever you want. You could say like, hey guys, you should maybe not eat McDonald's, or you could say, you know,
Yeah,
like,
He definitely wouldn't say that.
you could say just like, hi
Fuck,
guys,
fuck
fuck,
you,
you
Yeah.
know? Like, you
No,
know, so
I
many
get
people that you
get
say it.
messages though that are like regularly almost too much though. You know, like when people say things like, I mean, we had an email recently. Someone was like, I was going to kill myself on Christmas Day, but because of your podcast, I actually didn't do it, and now I'm doing this.
That's
now I'm
like
doing that.
some
And
of
it
these are
wasn't
just
like a-
edgy kids that want to fuck with
It
people,
wasn't one of those messages
and I
where
know
someone
many
said
of
something
them.
for
Like
effect. I felt like, oh, this
they're
guy's
still doing it. I'm
sense like
pretty
this.
sure it might be him.
This
It's
is
just
not a-
or one of these
It's all
three
just
guys
like
I know that
solely
do this shit. They come
This feels like a grown
to
man
talk
type
to
shit, you know what I mean? So I
fucking
felt like,
got to go
wow.
celebrity, internet
And, like,
celebrities.
I do sort of go,
And they fuck them up. They literally fuck them up. They take the piss.
But when you put it like that, it is.
They
mental,
take the
like, isn't it?
piece. Man. The fact that they sell so
Well, I
many
was gonna ask, do you
IG
see yourself
accounts
as an
is,
outcast
you know,
of the
accounts
local
you
community?
kind of
Wait,
get
is
bored
that
when
how
you
you-
wait
I'm
for
not
an
saying
account
he
to
is, by the
stop
way,
for
I
a
just
couple
wonder
of
how he
months. It
felt
doesn't
about
sell.
Yeah, I get
But like,
to ask that's a
maybe
good question then.
because
How do
it's
you
like
see
not a
yourself in
fake
the
profile and she,
So
you
I
know.
don't see myself.
Yeah,
as
I
a-
might as well fuck with this
in the
dumbass, you
community.
know.
I don't
She, man,
label myself in any way as an
Bored
outcast
as
or an
fuck.
outcast or whatever the word would be.
being a
but-
sociopath.
I know.
The
But
definition of being a
I
sociopath.
think
You
that
just don't care about.
I do
him
represent
and,
a,
you know?
a particular strand.
Oh
of
no, he
poker
failed. Shit.
and a particular strand of thinking that surrounds, hey, we're doing this to, you know, get personal gain, but we're also doing this so we can try and do better things in the world. So there are multiple people that I coach for absolutely for free, because
I'm
they're-
one of them.
He's
Wow.
one of them.
You
because-
should make him pay. I mean, he's.
yeah, looking around, I
Yeah.
probably should.
Yeah.
The rate just went up.
Yeah.
But it's because when I look at them and when I speak to them, I see and I hear somebody who only wants to do good in the world, and they see poker as a conduit to doing good in the world. And for
Yes, I'm about the charity life. I'm gonna end this guy's fucking career. He's like, I'm about to gamble my last 10 grand in order to triple it. He's a dumbass. Let's just fucking take it, play cash games and take his fucking moolah. Cause what do you mean? Look at this dumbass. You leave the fucking channel. Get out, dude. Get the fuck out, dude. What are you doing? Can't see. Leave. Change channel. Please. You get one of these idiots out. 1.4 million. Don't mind me, I'm gonna take it.
for somebody like you, I think that I have very high hopes that you're going to be somebody that changes the world. You know, and both of you. I think that you have such a large platform, and the amount of effect that you have cannot be underestimated, and it's only going to grow because YouTube's the new, you know, it's the
Yeah,
new
I think
thing.
that I don't want it to be this about us because it's supposed to be about you, but when
Let's
you're,
take a second though.
I think that's where me and Lance both get sometimes frustrated by what we're making. You know what I mean? Although sometimes it's easier to be, with all due respect, better than the rest, but it still isn't what I want to be. In my opinion, I think we make more high-end, more questionable, like, you know, making people think kind of content and not just brainless bullshit that you watch while you're waiting for a bus, which is 99% of YouTube. But at the same time, am I though? Like sometimes I do feel like we go and dip into that a little bit sometimes when we're making sometimes you just want to make people laugh.
This is
It's
something
not
I've been
impossible.
wanting to ask you about actually, because I'm unsure about how I would have approached it in your situation, because I've seen some of the high quality content you've made, and you're so good at squeezing out little pieces, nuggets of golden truth out of people, like the Sean Atwood ones. Oh my god, they're so good to watch.
Like honey to me.
But then I'll also see you dive into like the online boxing thing between those two people, and that to me is a bit like, you know, you going back and eating McDonald's. It's fun. It's good to watch. A lot
Well,
of
fun
people
is the
get-
word that comes to my head.
But fun is definitely, and entertainment has its place in society for sure. But what I also think it was doing is promoting fake beef. It wasn't authentic between those two for most of it, and it was people.
She's like, oh, he
riling up
figured it out.
millions
Shit.
to make money is what I saw, and how.
So I
but
think there's,
obviously
there's
that,
more to it than that,
but
specifically.
very, very true, and I'm sure I misunderstand it a bit of it at least. But there is also an element to getting more people watching you when you do that as well, which is very, very handy for them when you do give them the more rich stuff. But what do you think I'm missing in it?
Self-development. I think for both of those guys, there was an element of it where it was like, we want to be number one. A little bit like poker. There was something you said in a poker video recently where you said, when I'm in a poker table and I'm really under pressure, I find out something about me. Now, when I'm in a boxing session and like I got a guy in front of me who's piling on the pressure, and I've got to keep throwing, and I've got to keep throwing, and I know if I stop throwing, he's going to know how fucked I am. So I got to keep throwing. I have to dig deep and really bring out the beast and really go, I'm not going to be fucking taken over by this guy. I've got to keep going. And very much when I watch you bluff 400 grand on a hand where you've got fucking nothing, you know, you're showing what you're feeling what you're made of as a person. And you had two guys then who, was the beef scripted? I think it was more rivalry that they amped up for the cameras.
They amplified it,
but
yeah.
they wanted to be number one, a bit like you when you get into a poker table. But in order to, the journey these guys
Oh
went
no, I
through
took another one.
was about growing into men. And if you look at
Hey,
them
pick
both
it
now,
up,
you talk about
dog.
the face. If
Didn't
you
mean
look
to
at the
pick it
picture
up,
of them
dog.
before they went through those
Disgusting.
boxing camps, and after, they both look very different blokes completely. So I agreed with that, and I knew that neither of them were going to get like seriously hurt. And for me personally, as someone who loves fighting, it was a chance to be like Joe Rogan for a weekend and go, I'm going to commentate, my mates are fighting, like, you know, they're going to get all these eyes on YouTube, it is going to elevate what I'm doing, and it was fun. But yeah, like, it's more when we comment on bullshit celebrity drama that I feel like this is a laugh, but ultimately I'm not like super proud of it, but we have a good laugh doing it, and there's a place and a time to have a bit of a joke about, you know, how ridiculous celebrity bollocks is. But I think in the long term, we want to do more stuff that pushes ourselves to dig deeper mentally and make people think a bit more.
I think you've changed my mind on this, to be honest. Now I'm even thinking maybe the celebrity drama shit has its place, because I mean, you can't just be
This guy's
serious.
so easily
Nobody watches
influenced.
you if you're just serious all the time. And the thing about YouTube is that
What?
it's weird. It's been selecting fame not through merit, not through integrity, but through how entertaining you can be, and often
Or
that's
ridiculous,
through-
yeah.
or how ridiculous, or
Yeah.
how stupid.
Any
you
of the
can be,
above,
or-
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you get people like Jake Paul or Logan Paul who they got famous through being ridiculously entertaining to kids, basically.
Yes.
And now they're being held as the celebrities that everyone looks to to like compare themselves to and to see, okay, this person's acting like that and that person's acting like that, and it's such a weird selection process where it's almost random if you're looking at somebody who might have high morals. So
I actually don't think it is random. I think it's actually the opposite of that, but it's presented as random. So it's because YouTube is obviously very much the embodiment. Jake and Logan are the embodiment of the American dream, and everyone in America would like you to believe the American dream is as random as it gets for anyone. When that's absolute bollocks, really. In reality, it isn't.
I think there's some. Sorry, just to add a caveat on it. There's some people who get famous through being friends with those guys. Do you know what I mean? So there's some randomness there, but generally, yeah, like there's reasons.
There's reasons behind it, and then I think, you know, obviously there is this mentality that was developed in the 20th century of, which almost came from Russia, I think, in a way, where it's like, well, the machine will decide for itself in a sense, and the mass consciousness of people will decide, and that's what's best. And we're sold that now, and I don't actually believe it's true. And obviously, when you look at YouTube, you realise, well, mass consciousness doesn't necessarily work for the best content out there. So I get what you're saying. I just think YouTube also, as its own platform, is a bit of a bubble. It has a chance to frame itself, and that's partly why it's also struggling to penetrate outside of that. Because once you leave the truth of YouTube, a lot of people go, well, you're not very good in the real world. Or like, well, that only really works where you are right now. And there's something quite tricky about that, which is why I respect Logan for what Logan's done, and to the same extent with KSI and JJ, where he's managed to break outside of that and managed to get through that wall, because that, I think, is a real challenge for
people. Are philosoph like, you need to be more concise in life. I need to, like, holy shit. It's just, most of it, it's just gibberish.
those two, and I think those two saw that as a,
It
bit
doesn't
of
matter.
a conduit to getting to that point.
Unfortunately, in order to break through that, you need an event. You need a moment where
Little fly catcher.
the rest of the world is forced to take notice. The TV shows which the mums and dads or whatever watch are now penetrated by Logan Paul, KSI, and all of that. And luckily, I got a little bit of shine through that, and that elevated my name. But unfortunately, so we, for example, although we have the eyes of the people, we're competing with organizations for advertising. Now, we're just, there's a few of us behind the scenes, but we're not a big company. We got all the attention, but what we are finding when we go into business rooms is there's multi-million pound companies who are they went to the same universities as the guys who are in the other company. So let's say we're going to a Coca-Cola for a brand deal. We're not, but just say, for example,
We haven't. No.
there's another company who we go head to head with, and the guy could be like, "Sure, Johnny's got all the views. Yeah, this is the way to go." And
Organic.
The other company who is buying views, who clearly doesn't get any real fans. Not saying no names.
Don't know who you're talking about. Do you want another copper of water, or are you
Yeah, I'm
okay?
all right,
Sure,
I'm all
yeah,
right.
okay, just checking. Yeah.
So there's friends in high places. There's shit going on behind the scenes that we can't compete with. So we're getting fucked over.
1103.
Because we're just not part of the system.
At the
Do you know what I mean?
nah.
So we're still but KSI and Logan
Doesn't even have the
have
fucking
now almost
Blade Plus
made
9.
that jump.
What you can see at the least.
We are
I mean,
still
we have an element
kind
on
of
it,
in-
right?
We're still in that limbo place. You know what I mean?
So I agree. I don't think I meant Brandon, but I do want to say I do respect that. I don't know much about KSI, but Logan Paul, I actually do really respect him as a human from what I've seen from him.
Wow.
Like, why
think
is he
he's
trying to
extremely
be
hardworking.
annoying and shit?
I think that you cannot underestimate having started.
He's trying to level up the
a
pet. It's like,
charity.
give me like
People
1 hour for it to
is
level
someone
up.
that
It's level 100
I
only.
really,
Just,
really value
you know,
confidence in a person.
I don't want to go in the
I
beta
think
and
there are
give
ways
a couple
to
of
hold
items,
yourself
feed him.
kinder, to be more honest, but also to just
Oh,
be
come
fairer
on.
and stuff.
It's
And I
not-
think
it's
that
not
he's
long.
really got that side down.
You're a
and now
piece
he's
of
going after the
fucking
monster of
shit.
which is-
Competence is like a real interesting side to people, because I also think a lot of characters in modern, especially when you watch a lot of media, competence is something that not many of the men in media are portrayed with. So actually, like, I think we've discussed this on the podcast before, like a lot of the archetype males now are actually incompetent men who are sort of fools led by sex or led by whatever. Like, you know,
I
Homer
lost
Simpson,
GG's.
look at Family Guy. The
can't
men are not competent
waste
people.
my time with that idiot.
And they sort of just haphazard guys.
Uh-huh.
And very rarely do we sort of see those kind of people. So when I'm watching Logan, I'm like, yeah, he's actually quite a competent person. And I really
mean,
appreciate
he's
that.
running a multi-million-pound company.
That's such an interesting point because, and going back to what you said earlier, it's almost like it's a representation of the people. Like,
Yeah.
we've gone into a society now where, you know, we're not hunter-gatherers anymore. No, it's hard to become successful where other people be like, oh, he's really good at what he does. You have to really get out of the rat race. You have to find a domain that isn't super saturated, and you have to be talented and hardworking, all of these different things. So there's probably a lot of people that subconsciously relate to Homer Simpson, just being like, or consciously, just being like, yeah, no, I'm a bit of a
Yeah.
bum sometimes. I do like beer and I don't really do much, but you know, I'm funny at least, you know.
Can I ask one question about the poker? So you weren't meditating from the very beginning when you were winning millions. How did you win that money then?
The reason, or one of the reasons that I think I had so much success in
Oh.
the early days in poker, even
Shit.
though I was very undeveloped in a lot of ways and I didn't really know myself very well, is because, so when I was younger, very, very bullied, had a lot of other abuse that I went through from people closer to me, and it created this self-defense mechanism, which actually a lot of people have, but they're not completely aware of it, where my emotions, I stopped experiencing them viscerally, and I started only experiencing them cognitively. And so this allowed me to step outside of myself as an Aspergic person who couldn't look at someone in the eye without feeling scared, and to really craft myself into who I wanted to be. And that was a competent person, somebody who was more articulate, good at debating, good at mathematics, you know, good at socializing. And then when I got to poker, I actually didn't even know this is what had happened. I just thought that I was completely in control of my emotions, but I was just so high on the sociopathic spectrum from that closing down. I really do think a lot of sociopaths come from abuse. And that's how I distinguish sociopaths.
I'm a sociopath. I don't think I've been abused once in my
I
life, physically
was
or
lucky enough that I
mentally.
could go into these situations and be
Mentally, I
left
mean,
behind
it's
without having
this,
to do any
there
work.
is so much
You
shit
know,
you can
there's-
say
there's
it's
a lot of
mental
people in
abuse,
the
but
poker
like,
world, they're more mathematically minded, they're more robotic in a sense, and they in the high stakes at least, they don't feel the pressure in the same way that a lot of people do. Whereas now I've had to do it the hard way. I've had to look inside myself. Okay, I'm vulnerable like this. I get scared. I get angry. I get annoyed. And now I've had to like meditate through all of that. And that's why I've taken so much time out of poker before going in and coming out and going in.
oh,
And
that's why he's,
I think it was just luck
that's why
in the
he's so
sense that
spiritual
I
and shit.
I was bullied. You know, luck that I had all
Okay,
of that
buddy.
trauma, which
Unlike, I mean, so
allowed me
his
to be a person
choice to
which
do it
could then
is the
succeed
fucking.
in a domain where you had to be cold-hearted and non-emotional.
It's weird.
I
how
know.
Watching you play now. Now that I
It's
actually
just
understand
these
poker,
like this.
I'm like,
Some his conscience
fuck.
choice to be like it.
The way you look at people when you bluff them is, it's intense. Like,
Yeah.
you're a totally different person.
I really think that there's in poker, I think that even though a lot of people in the high stakes community will say it's getting near to be solved, I think there are two strands of poker that are completely uncharted courses. And I really believe that some people have kind of like worked their way through that territory, through the forests and hacked down with a machete. But they haven't said, okay, guys, come on, it's this way, navigating them around the different traps and everything in the forest. And the two strands are, one, live reads. There is so much depth you can get with the live reads. It's not just picking up on micro expressions, it's also feeling someone's energy. It's also little things, little patterns that you'll see in other people, and then how that interacts with the theory of the game, especially in tournaments for a particular reason. It's beautiful. It's where mathematics meets art. The way it combines, honestly, I think is just gorgeous. And it's the most complicated game I've ever seen. I played a lot of chess. It's way more complicated than chess. And people haven't figured this out. Like, I look on the table for what the best players in the world are looking for, and they're just thinking,
It's a
they're
fucking-
calculating. They might be trying to close off their expressions so it's harder to read them, which works a lot of the time, but they're not looking for the right things, at least in my opinion. The second strand is the metaphysical strand, and I truly
Like,
believe
can't
that
you give me
there
like
will
one
be,
with
in the
12
future,
int or
a
like a-
generation of poker players.
I
who will
know,
completely
just
dominate
one
in this
int,
area,
just
and they'll
saying.
learn how to get in
Maybe.
their flow state or in their A game.
Maybe one
they'll
day.
learn how to be the best version of themselves 100% of the time, or near 100% of the time, and they will be the people that crush poker in the future. But currently, it's just a mathematical.
Another
because that's
guy.
the type of
Oh,
poker.
no. I mean,
Like in
technically,
fighting, you know, when jiu-jitsu
I
came
can
along,
move his
within
territory.
jiu-jitsu, it started just dominating. But then you've eventually had to get, you know, a broader spectrum
my
of
man
MMA, because you
needs
need
to understand
you
that
need
his,
all the different disciplines. But
his
poker's
fellow
such a new
Polish
game
guy
that I think we're
didn't
still
want
at
to
that
live.
stage
You
where
know what I
just
mean?
the new ones come in, that they're now taking over.
Yeah, I truly
So it's
didn't
his fault. It's
understand
not his fault, but
anywhere near what a
the other
wizard
damn
you are
fault.
when
Them
we first
here.
interviewed you. And then I spoke to a few other experts in poker, and they were like, Charlie's a freak of nature. Like he's, you know, he's odd, he's different. You're never going to be like him. He told me, you will never be that good. Just accept that straight away.
It's annoying,
And I was
isn't
like,
it?
I mean, I never thought I could, but what is interesting, what blew my mind is, we had a half-hour call the other day, and I put my poker game on, and I just doubled my money straight away, just taking in what
You
you
were in
said.
flow state.
No, but like, it was just such good organ.
Yes, he's in flow state. That means he cannot lose any rivers. That he can't. If you're in flow state, you cannot do that. It's mathematically proven.
Instructions, do you know what I mean? And it was just very like, this
Yeah.
is what you need to do. And I just was like, okay.
I would say that could be a coincidence.
Right.
Yeah, but
It might not be. It might not be.
Well, what's
I mean-
the fucking point in the call then? Why bother?
But I doubled my money and it was easy. You know what I mean?
It's
Because it was just
easy.
like, just think
Was
about
in
what he
flow.
said. Just think about what he said. Do this, and it worked straight away.
I just want to thank you, Charlie, because Brian actually offered to buy lunch on that day.
Wow.
man.
$25, baby.
Wow, that's pretty big. What I picked up from you there, and what we were talking about earlier, is obviously your change in the last month. I think one thing you haven't really spoken about publicly is your willingness to let the old you go, and how you're still essentially you or whatever, which I don't even really know what that means. But you have shown a lot of willingness to maybe let a lot of the aggression that you used to have go, or or rechannel it or change it. And I really respected. I think I texted you about this the other day. I really respected how you. How can I put this? Like you were fearless in that change. People, when they change, you have a lot to lose. Like you had a lot to lose. You might have, for all you knew, you could have lost your ability to play poker because you might have.
Well, you're becoming more emotional, which
Yeah.
is a
I
big
did for a
change.
bit.
Exactly, yeah. And for all you know, you might have lost your audience because your audience might have gone, well, this guy's not the same guy that I knew before.
I did think about that, which is weird because I never really think about that. But I'm like, wow, I really am changing a lot here. You know, what used to be important to me isn't important to me as much anymore, and that it's a fucking weird feeling. Like,
It's beautiful
Yeah.
though, man.
It's quite
because
empowering, isn't it?
What
Yeah.
you would have drawn in would have been people who are similar to you before, and them watching your transformation, I think, will be so instructive for other people.
yeah, I hope so. I'm gonna do some videos about sort of like fitness and stuff like that coming up, and really try to like just show like general change across the board, and like hopefully do more podcasts in this way. I'm just letting it go will help, but it did cross my mind like, wow, I feel like a massive change going on here inside, and I think being publicly shamed has an impact on you that takes a while to sort of marinate in your brain. So when a lot of people turn on you, or what you thought used to be adulation was really not that. Once you become a victim of the internet instead of the guy who's just participating in it, it teaches you what you thought was there isn't really there, and then you start really reflecting on, all right, so what is important?
I only saw it, and honestly, I had zero judgment in my heart. I was like,
Well, that's because you're a dirty bastard. yourself.
Yeah.
But
Some filthy shit,
yeah.
right? Absolutely.
we know.
squeaky clean.
Oh, you fuck! As he says, leaning back into the chair. The body language experts are going crazy.
He literally leant away, looked away from everyone, and went, "I am
nothing.
sweetie." What was
I am
the?
an
Yeah.
angel.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my own stories on the pod at some point. It's like similar type of stuff.
So once you go through that, it's horrible at the time, weirdly liberating later as you realize, okay, so for the rest of my life, people are going to tell me, there's never a day goes by where someone doesn't mention it of, oh, that was bad, wasn't it? And it's like,
Really?
Does it bother you?
I think every single day.
Does it
Wow.
bother you?
Yes, in a way, but not for the reason someone might think it is. It doesn't bother me because I've got anything to be ashamed of personally. It bothers me because I'm really moving on with my life and changing and deeply becoming someone else. And when people bring back a version of you that was 6 versions ago, even though that wasn't a long time away, it makes you go, don't think of me like this person, because that was me in a really bad place, and I'm now in a different place, and I'm now becoming a different person, and I don't want you to associate that version of me with this version of me. And that's when people get cancelled. They go, that oh, that wasn't the real me. I'm a different person now. And that's cliche, and some of them don't really mean it. Let's be honest. But that's the bit I go, I'm not that. I am that person, but that's a different version of me. I am a fucking different version now.
Do you think that happening, the leaked DMs, was a catalyst for that change?
Well, it was going to have an impact in one way or another, and it could have gone bad. It could have gone really, and it almost did for a minute.
But do you think that it was part of the reason why you stepped away from that part of you?
Yeah.
So it probably was a good thing overall.
Pain equals growth, and in pain, I faced that pain head on, like I faced pain head on in previous times of my life. So luckily, I was like, all right, this is not my first rodeo. I face this, but still horrible, and grow from it and become and really think about, well, how the fuck, how do you end up in this position where you've lost your sponsorship from? That was for a totally different reason, obviously.
That was actually before.
It was an awful week, which, when people really want to stick the boot in, they do.
It really shows people's true colours when you show vulnerability, because some people will act with kindness, but a lot of people, especially online, will act with malice. Because they're finding like, well, this person who I've been secretly jealous of this whole time is finally down, and now I can kick him.
And in some ways, some people surprise you, and some people don't put the boot in, But regardless, I am me, and no one was going to break that, you know what I mean? So it was just about, but I actually enjoy being vulnerable now. I feel like it's like really empowering. It's
beautiful.
It's because most people haven't got the balls to. So there's people who can act vulnerable. There's people who can give you a little bit of salt and pepper vulnerable, but I give you the fucking meal. And that's what makes me who I am.
Are you willing to like cry to people who you're close to and share secrets?
Yeah. I absolutely. I cried yesterday.
Where did I last cry, Hannah? Was it yesterday? I thought it was today.
Pair of pussies, man.
Oh, was it today?
No, I had a song on that reminded me of someone who passed away, and I just had that moment of like, I'm just going to let this all come out.
Good, that's exactly what you have to do. And that's what a lot of people, especially men, don't do, and we're not taught to do it. It's that it's not just expressing yourself, it's releasing. Like when something bad happens, when something traumatic happens, whether it's being neglected as a child or whether it's somebody you're close to dying, that creates an energetical reaction inside of you. And if you're not releasing that through crying, screaming, dancing, singing, whatever you do to release it, then it stays.
Oh,
and
bro,
bottles up.
I when it started happening, I was like, fuck me, I'm gonna cry here, like because I wasn't listening to a song thinking about the person at the start, and then it just came over me, and I thought, I need to let this go here. So I got the picture up with that person on my phone, and I played another song that reminded me of them.
That's smart.
And I thought I had 10 minutes, and it was just like really, just fucking like a bitch, But at the end, I was like, I'm going in the shower now. And then it was just like, okay, I've done that. And when you're missing someone, especially, you haven't got that
the other way around.
hug, touch,
Crying
that
and then going in the
embrace that
shower.
you want from them.
Pretty much the
But
same.
when you cry, it's that connection that's making you cry, that love for them, that relationship with them that makes you cry. So it was like, although they're not there, it's the closest thing you can get of feeling that again. So weirdly great feeling.
And it's almost like you're giving yourself that love, like you're giving yourself that time to experience it and saying, hey, I don't actually need someone else to feel good, so I can make myself feel good. And so many people can't do that. You know, they can't spend time by themselves without having to click on a YouTube video to watch some YouTube drama or to play a game. But they'll always be looking for a way to detach, or they'll drink alcohol or take drugs. And you see that so much within the homeless community, and understandably, man, like who wouldn't? You know, if you've gone through the worst experiences possible and then you're thrown out into the street, it's very natural to want to disconnect from that. But what I really hope that, and I really do think the world is kind of picking up on this now, is that it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to cry, and it's actually in your best interest. And actually, it's probably the bravest thing somebody could do, because you could find
He
somebody
said this
that's
already,
charging
or
towards a
before.
battle and doesn't feel a shred of fear in his body. That's not brave. You know, that's somebody that just doesn't feel fear, so he's happy to do that. And I used to be like that. I used to just not feel fear, and I was never brave because I couldn't be brave because I wasn't facing anything that was making me scared. But now something that scares me is like speaking to Hannah about one of the times where she was abusive to me and going through it in depth, and then accepting love from her.
What?
was terrifying.
Someone said
for
some
me.
shit. I don't know.
Absolutely terrifying in
That wasn't
certain
me, though.
moments, at least anyway, because I'm still healing in that moment from something that happened in the past. And for me, that is 1,000 times braver than anything that I did when I was, when I was just a sociopath.
Those scars remain, unfortunately. Like, it's really hard to.
This
accept
quite
what
literally,
happened,
not
you can move on.
unfortunately. You know what I mean?
It's hard when you're just. It's there, isn't
Imagine
it? You know
him
what I
having
mean?
a scar
It's
from
like,
his girlfriend fucking
difficult to
smacking his ass. Holy
be where
shit!
you were. You know what I mean?
I think that the more people release and the more people heal and the more people get reiteration of love instead of abuse, then the more it leaves, and then the scars are replaced with almost like an armor, where you're now stronger, way stronger than before. And for me, with Hannah specifically, I'm still in that place where the scars are still there, but I do think that, comparison to where I was a year ago or a year and a half ago, it's maybe like 10%. I'll get a reaction, I'll be able to cry, I'll be able to speak to her about it, whereas before I would just be like, we have to spend 4 months apart
No.
because I can't speak to you right now.
Fuck.
So I think
Should have
that
fucking put the gloves on.
there are a lot of people
Unlucky.
who go through so many things where there's like
Just give me
bullying, there's, like,
bravery
parents
capes and I'm fine
breaking
with it.
up
Or
and things like that, and it will damage them.
don't give me,
but
don't give me
it will
shit.
create
Maybe.
this
Yeah. Give me a
unique
book.
type of human
Yeah,
being
bash.
that has this
Of course.
very potent perspective on life and
There
has
you go.
like a really strong suit of armor around them. Because if you've been through a drug addiction, for instance, you're the best person or the best type of person in the world to help someone that's going through a drug addiction. And if you've been bullied, or if you've had internet hate, you're the best type of person to speak to someone that's going through internet hate, because you understand it, you empathize it. and you're
Literally,
strengthened.
this is the new
Or you
the
can
new
be
age
kind of person
pushing
who just
out.
gets
Yes,
you in a
sir.
break and you
Too
struggle
many
to
pussies
become
these
a-
days, to be
you know,
honest.
There's
nothing wrong with being a pussy, but, like,
I see in you somebody
it's
that's
it's just too many of them, you know what I mean?
Just completely strengthened from your shit.
You talk about your relationships in the past. You've gone through a real journey there, because when I first met you, I was like, this guy is a pimp. Like, you had all these girls and whatever, and yeah, it seemed like you were really making up for whatever lost time you'd had previously.
Might have been the case, yes.
Yeah, and you had, like, I don't know, 5 girls on the go at one time or whatever, and it was
Just to be clear, it was polyamory. They all knew, and they were all able to date.
yeah, he
as well.
didn't hide it. He was very honest in that, and he wasn't
Almost too honest.
he wasn't a player. They were very aware of what was going on, but still,
Bit of a player. I mean, it was.
I was like, wow, and you were like, this is it for me. This is how I want to live my life. But then obviously you meet Hannah, that changes everything, and then you went through this transformation together, where you went on this journey.
Fuck it, dude.
Where are
3%.
you at now?
Fuck it, dude.
Together, not together. Do you see other people? What's the score?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not polyamorous anymore.
I knew he's gonna. I knew. When I saw that fucking video, I was like, yeah, you're for sure gonna fall for one bitch. It's 150% sure. That's what everyone does.
So in love, so romantically attached.
You see-
We don't try to use labels because
You see,
the nature of healing from the trauma means that we have to take time apart and be together, and take time apart and be together. And part of me becoming a strong, autonomous person is allowing her and saying, hey, if you want to be with someone else instead of me, that's completely fine. I will still be your best friend. And she can say the exact same to me. It hasn't really happened yet, but there have been moments where we've both been questioning, do we want to be with someone else? And
Have you both been with other people in this time?
she's kind of been with one person, and I have kind of been with a couple of people. I'm not really sure. She's nodding. She'll remember this better than me. But nothing super serious on long term. But it was very good for both of us to experience the other person doing it, because there's nothing more painful than seeing someone that you're in love with be with someone else.
You were Will Smith. I'm just for that minute.
But
Or Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
One or the other.
This guy
have you
sounds
seen that?
knowledgeable, but he's not really knowledgeable. He's kind of like,
So Will Smith
it's
basically
like,
and
it's
his
like,
wife Jada Pinkett
ooh,
Smith came out.
I know,
You
maybe.
know, they both acknowledged
This
that
fucking
they had
high
those
voice,
moments where
high pitch
they
voice.
separated, one of the
Sheesh,
people
man.
come back together.
Some people speculate that Will Smith got with Margot Robbie.
Interestingly,
Another one.
Hannah, your whatever you want to call her, I'm going
my
to say
person.
your little person. She's going to go away for a year, not to prison. Sorry, she's going on a trip for a year.
As far as we know.
That's big. Like that's a long time for you guys to be apart. Is that the longest you've been apart since meeting?
We won't be apart for the year. Like
Alright.
we're planning on going on a holiday to Mexico and some other places. But she's very, very welcome to be with other people while she's out there. But it doesn't scare me at all anymore. Like I might have small moments when I'm with her and I'll get an insecure feeling coming up, which will be related to my childhood or something to my parents or something like that. And then I'll deal with it, and then I'll just be happy. And I genuinely, I had such a, for me it was at least a profound moment where I was meditating on this exact thing, and Hannah wasn't around at the time, and I was imagining being her best friends and walking her down the aisle so she could marry somebody else, and it genuinely made me cry of happiness at the thought of her being happy with somebody that's good for her. So I feel like I've grown a lot in that sense. I wouldn't have been able to do that for someone.
It's very interesting that you did that. Did someone tell you to do that by any chance?
No.
Just because I was talking to Believe in Bruce, who's a psychologist that we know, and someone asked him a question. I think it was it Joe Weller asked him a question
I think it might be Joe, yeah.
about potentially boxing again, and he said visualize everything. You know, really go there, put yourself in the worst possible situation or whatever, you know, and you know, you obviously have gone there. You've really, really gone there.
You got to dig deep, man. You gotta find what you're scared of and face it head on, because otherwise it's going to come from behind and take you by surprise.
So to speak. Do you when you go away or to Mexico or whatever? Like, I guess you two are just completely honest with each other, and you're just sort of like, do you ask? Are you sort of like, so have you been seeing anyone? Or are you?
Yeah, we'll be in contact, and we're 100% honest now. Like I know that she doesn't lie anymore, and you can really feel it.
Well, why do you say that in front of somebody? I know you don't lie anymore.
You're in touch
What
with
do
that
you
person, you
mean?
can really feel it when they're being
Oh,
dishonest
boy.
about something.
Oh, boy.
It feels so off. But
I
she
know you
knows
don't lie
now
anymore.
that it's in both of our best
I
interests.
trust
We're
you
100% honest with
deeply.
each other. So yeah, we'll keep in contact. And if I were like speaking to somebody romantically, I'd message her and be like, "Hi, by the way, I'm speaking to someone romantically. Do as you wish with that information." But so you know, and she's
can I ask a
really good
question?
with it now.
You know, I'm wondering how you sort of play out the future in your head as we all think about the future. Do you ever go, like, what if she meets someone else? And you know, like I know you kind of covered this a little bit, but like,
I would love to be her person, you know, for the rest of our lives, and she would love to be
She's
mine.
she's
But
so fucking
we're both
dumb.
aware
Like you're
that not everything
such a
works out the way that we
pussy.
expect it to. So
Like I
before
kind of feel for
had a
this
really
guy. It's
unhealthy
not dumb,
sexual
but like he's
idealization
pretty
of
immature. He said the word. Like he
And
is
that, I think,
immature.
one of the
He's
most
not a
painful
man
things
yet.
to let
He
go
needs
of
to
when
grow up.
somebody
Like with
gets
somebody like
heartbroken or somebody gets
that's
left of
18
course,
years
something.
old is more
Not
of a
only
man
are
than
you
you.
saying
Like,
goodbye
come
to
on,
the person
dad.
in front of you,
You're,
but you're also
you
saying
know.
goodbye to the whole future that you imagined. And I think that emotional attachment to the future is extremely detrimental. So what I'm trying to say, what I try to say to myself is, I'm super happy. I would love to be, you know, her husband, and she be my wife in the future. But if it's somebody else, then I'm sure that would be for a good reason.
I think a lot of people should,
Yes.
even if they're
I
still
can
with
tell you.
someone,
Get the prenup,
let go
dog.
of the imaginary
Get the
future that you
prenup.
have and actually look at
Unless
your
she's
relationship right now and
making
go,
money herself.
Is this what you want though? This
Get the
right now?
prenup.
Because usually
You're gonna get
the
fucked
reason
because
people stay in
I don't
miserable
think you're.
fucking relationships
You take
is
the wisest
because
decisions
how
most of
good
the
it was
time.
at the start,
Yeah.
and the future that they're imagining. And guess what,
Kinda
bitch?
crazy. You
Reality,
say about
you're not
say that
listening
about
to
someone
them, you're
that's
not actually
playing
fucking paying
poker
attention.
as
You're
a
thinking about how
profession.
great it
He's
was at
not
the
taking
start when you all
the
loved up,
best
and
decisions
this
many of
bullshit
times.
future that's never
Crazy.
coming, like, and I'm not saying this is
Crazy.
you, obviously,
It
but,
was me.
but I've been there.
I need to
know
leave
a
in like
lot of
10
people
minutes.
who, like, have been there or
Unfortunately,
still there.
just gonna
And,
level
like,
up
it's very
this
difficult
to
to
1%,
do
and
that
then we
but
we're going
that's how you end up
for
in a
like
good relationship.
3, 4,
actually.
5 hours.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know.
gotta have the tough conversations. You gotta have the tough thoughts. You gotta be like,
Depends. This is
how
12
sure am I
intelligence.
that
Come
I
on, dog.
don't
Give me,
want
give
someone
me,
else?
dude.
Am I having thoughts of looking at other women and being like, oh, maybe I could be with that person? And if so, why so? You know, is it because I'm not happy with this person, or is it because I'm insecure and want validation from somebody else as well?
Or you just horny.
Or are you just horny and the person you have isn't around? It's all fair game.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important.
This
not to
kid,
do
I would
this kind of
fucking
stuff, you know? Like,
die. I would
it's
grief him so
common
much.
for
He
us
killed
to
me on
be
a
like, oh,
fucking
my
level 1
boyfriend
character
looked at someone
today.
else,
Then
or,
I
you know,
I
he really
came
wants
up
to
on the
masturbate thinking
blues
of someone else, like,
in Gino and
it's
destroyed
a guy,
him.
It's an
and,
animal.
like,
It's a mammal. You know, personally,
I will
I
kill
try
him
to
now.
not act
Let's
on
see,
those
let's see,
things,
let's
and
see.
I recognize.
this one. Perfect.
Okay, you know, if I feel the urge to watch
Where
porn,
are you at,
which
little boy?
I've done in 3 fucking years, by the way. So happy about that.
That seems like he wants to farm. Not sure what he's
Nailed that
doing.
one.
There's a
Absolutely.
clip.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I haven't done in 3 years.
You did nail it.
What are your
in 3
guys'
years.
relationship with porn? Because you actually asked me a question about porn when I came on.
Really?
this time.
The first one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think you asked a lot of people that question about.
Yeah, we were a very different podcast back then. that was almost like question 5 back in the day. It was a bit like porn.
Personally, once a week. Might watch porn.
Do you think it's in your best interest to do that?
If I did or I didn't really, I think that ship has sailed. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Are you saying you're incapable of making an autonomous decision to change that?
no, what I'm saying is I've watched so much porn in the past by comparison to what I watch now.
Right.
You know, like even if I wasn't watching porn, I'd just have to go. Right, I'm ready. You
I
know,
think
like
this is called the
Really?
sunk cost fallacy.
yeah,
Right.
but I have watched a lot of porn. You know what I mean? So I can almost remember their porn star names and all this shit.
I love you, dude. But that
Almost.
is one of the worst rationalizations I've had for something.
No, so what I'm saying, you can take me apart of this if you want, is I watch so much porn that what is one more video at this point after I've watched like
What is one more hit? Or a pairing?
10,000? But yeah, but I don't view it as
What's
you know.
one more drink then?
Sure. Yeah,
but
let's go to the bar now.
But it's a harmless thing. In the small doses that I
It's
watch
harmless
porn, it's
thing.
like,
Doesn't
oh,
matter,
it's not a
like,
big deal.
Right, so
Very
you,
harmless.
You don't, what you're saying is you don't see it as detrimental. You don't see it as something you're trying
you
to win
know,
yourself off.
And with
It's a tiny little bit
one
of porn.
stone off.
It's really just like
It's only one cigarette, Mom.
Stop. Yeah, stop using things that you can analogize in that way.
look. I just have
Low-hanging, man.
3, and I just stick to 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but like
You just don't see it as a problem.
I'm just so chilled out about porn because like back in the day, it was every fucking night. You know what I mean? It was all the time. It was, you know,
Yeah.
it was a thing. I had a top 10. You know what I mean? Or
Top
whatever.
10.
Now I'm just
Sheesh.
like whatever.
Do you know any current porn stars' names? Or?
I mean, not really. That's the thing now. It's like
Damn.
you usually go on the homepage and you just go, aye, that'll do. Boom.
Wow.
Back
Well,
in
you're
the
a
day.
homepage navigator.
I'm
You
a
go to
scroller. I just
Wow.
scroll down. All right, she's got a big ass. Champion.
Wow.
It's-
I mean,
What
isn't
about
that
you,
what
Lawrence?
everyone
I
does?
don't.
Sheesh, man.
I don't
Did-
really. I'm over it. Can I put it that way? It doesn't entice me anymore.
When's,
it used
when's
to.
the last time you watched it?
I'm trying to. I'd have to think.
Lawrence's partner, cover your ears. And
No, like a long time ago. It's not. It's not something that.
he's more
Long,
of a
long
creator
time
of
ago.
sort of
3
guy.
months.
I've had a kid very recently, so yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Long time ago.
His homemade
Ooh, this
pornos are
one.
the
This
best
is
shot
a
shit
good one.
you would
Third
ever
record,
see.
success fan.
The weird thing
Such
is
high
now.
quality editing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've got a
It's
6K
black and
camera.
white, just to be clear.
Got a team behind it.
Sort of grainy black and white as
And
well.
action!
Yeah.
Do you know what's really weird? Someone once sent in a link to a porn video for us with a guy who was doing the girl doggy style, and honestly,
They
it
level
was
up.
amazing
GG's,
how
they didn't even pay
lookalike
attention.
It was of Lawrence, like it looked just
8
like
vital. Ah, come on.
Uh,
Cut the cap. Give me the fucking
That
bread.
is intensely strange, but I know I couldn't maintain an erection with that woman. So.
But no, it was. I mean, it was scarily like Lawrence.
The one of the weirdest scenarios was with homemade porn. Not my homemade porn. And when I first went to university, we all got given cameras, and obviously we'd get given the cameras, and the next day we'd take them out on shoots. Have I told you this before?
No.
And the next day we brought the cameras back to the team, and the guy who had held the cameras the night before basically said, look, I went home with 2 girls last night, and I basically told them that I had 2 cameras, and they suggested that we set the cameras up and fuck on them. So what I now need to tell you is, don't film over these tapes. And then and I went out the room of the other guys, and we all had an edit suite, and you get like these edit suites back in the day where people just go and just hang out.
Yeah, this sweeps,
I
okay.
walked back in, and they're all just watching the porn together. And
Oh man.
I was sad because there were girls that I knew, and I was like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Where do
bit
you?
rude, isn't it?
What was the?
And that's how me and Lawrence got
Nah.
together.
I wouldn't give a fly fuck.
It was such a weird scenario though.
Nah.
To this guy went home and he just went, "Yeah, I used the cameras last night." And we were like, "Oh, good, you've been practicing." And he was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I just set
I
them up
admire
and-
the
Yeah.
yeah."
So for
weren't
me,
good angles. I'll just say that.
I've realized that when I'm
There we go.
feeling
We're
crap
done.
about myself, I will want to look at women that I don't know, and I want to
Right.
disconnect from sex. Whereas the for
Stylish
me, the
shit
best
with
sex
a band-
that,
band
that I
yeah,
have
who's-
is obviously with Hannah, and it's when we're so connected emotionally.
Staj
and
calm.
We're really feeling the moment
Ja,
instead of just
Flexa så
fucking
kopil
like,
nästa
you know,
uppe,
it
exactly.
can be fun. I think that
What was
there's
this?
something about porn which creates this connotation of disconnect between you and sex. And there are so many people.
How can
you'll
kids
meet that when you have
flex
sex with them or if
on
they
fucking
speak about their
pixels
sex
in this
lives,
game?
They're not in the moment,
Disgusting.
They're disconnected. They're just playing.
They're
a
so
part in
fucking
a role
poor.
because
This
that's all
they
they've seen.
did
And I
did
really think
that
that
don't
porn,
matter, don't not
obviously
matter.
it's not the worst vice in the world, but I think that
Alright.
it's addictive, and I think it has strong negative consequences on people's mental health.
Well, GG's.
Strong negative consequences. I don't know,
That's
mate.
when this
I
kid
mean,
made my
it's-
day. It's one
it's one of
comment at
those
the end.
things where,
Holy
uh,
shit.
It's a bit like video games, you know. People blame video games for a lot of
Kids
things. It's
selling
like
there and go.